Record.
Incorporated East Richmond Heights and Haskell Heights. Let's do our roll call first. Vice Chair Victoria Lynn Curtis.
Here.
Councilmember Jinwei Zhang.
Here.
Councilmember Joanne Havlinek. Councilmember Pam DeWitt.
Here.
Councilmember Boris Sapir.
Here.
All right. Lawyer Ramirez is on his way. Yeah, he's
I'm also on the call here.
okay. All right, let's first do the treasurer's report, Ronnie.
Yep, still sitting at $1,183. I'm waiting to hear back from the CAO's office in regards to the budget restart. And so as soon as I get that, then I'll have an update on the budget for next month's meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Ronnie. All right, next is approval of the minutes of the July 16th meeting.
Motion to approve the July 16th meeting minutes.
Okay,
Second.
okay, any comments? Did everybody read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have a decimal point in the wrong place.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to embarrass you guys.
I read. You set us up on that.
The, on page 3, the grant is not 10 million, it's $950,000. Other than that, I didn't see anything. Anybody else have anything else? Okay, with that correction, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So we do have, I know, a lot of people here, and Supervisor Joya moved the bicycle trail up on the agenda, so we will get to you guys in just a minute. First, we're going to do Supervisor Joya's office. Ronnie, is he on? I can't see.
No, and we don't have much of an update for this month, so
Okay.
we're giving room for the remaining presenters.
I'm sorry.
We want to give room for the remaining presenters, so no update from our office.
Okay.
I wanted that.
Marilyn,
Yeah,
go ahead.
my name's Marilyn Hill. And I attended both the Contra Costa Truth Ash Forum on July 22nd and the Sheriff Oversight Meeting on August 12th. And so Lonnie, I was wondering if you could summarize those meetings as per email I sent you. And also, I remember at the end of the last meeting, John Joya ran 2 proposals by the lawyers, and I was just wondering where we were going with that.
Okay, Marilyn, I think with all due respect, we'd want to wait until after we move through this first part, and Ronnie, they'll.
I can always provide an update offline.
Actually, I'd like it to be here.
Yeah, no,
Point of order?
we will.
Point of order, Rick?
Yeah, we're gonna do stay with the agenda first, so and we can put off the supervisor's office in the meantime. So we'll go to presentation from East Bay Regional Park District.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry. I mean, I think it is important that we recognize Marilyn's comments over that. Just because there was a big issue at the county level this month, and I think we do deserve answers regarding that.
Okay, we are going to discuss that, but we're setting that aside and we're going through the agenda in the order wire. So we're going to be doing the East Bay Regional Park District now.
Okay, thank you.
We'll circle back and we'll address all of it. Okay. Okay, Max, I see you up there. You want to start this?
Sounds perfect. And Ronnie, I don't know if you can share the presentation or if you want me to.
Oh, no, I have it here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Well, sorry that I'm not there in person. I actually live not too far away, so hopefully next time I can get out to join you, but I've got childcare this evening. Um, we'll give sort of a shorter version of the presentation that we gave to our board recently, and then happy to answer any questions or just hear feedback as well. Wanted to note right off the bat, though, that we're kind of heading into working on the CEQA document, the EIR for this project, and there will be two sort of comment periods. So first, we're about to start the scoping for the EIR document, and so that'll be an opportunity for folks to give us feedback over about 30 days on the scope of the EIR document. And then we'll work on a draft EIR, and then there'll be a 45-day comment period on the draft of the EIR. And with both those comment periods, we're planning also to have, I think, public meetings. So we'll make sure, and Sean, who's on as well, will help with this presentation, and he'll provide a little info on how folks can stay connected, because I think we want to make sure that there's plenty of opportunities to stay engaged. So I'll jump right in. If you can go to the next slide, please.
John, who's speaking?
Max Corden with East Bay Regional Park.
Sorry, I should introduce myself. My name's Max Corton. I'm a Deputy General Manager with East Bay Regional Parks. And today we're joining you to talk about a potential trail project in Wildcat Canyon. And this project came to us as a community proposal from some of the youth mountain biking teams, the middle school and high school mountain biking teams. And our team, heard this interest in finding an opportunity for the teams to ride in an area. One of the things that's really cool about these teams is that instead of driving to our park, they actually, many of you are probably familiar with it, but they ride from their schools or their homes up into the park. And so they're not necessarily driving. And so they're interested in a trail that they could ride to. And our team was really interested in it too, because we know that providing, legal, sustainable mountain biking trails is one of our best ways to reduce illegal trail building, and also to find ways to sort of separate uses that sometimes might cause conflicts. And so it's one thing that we're sort of always looking for, and was part of the direction of our 2013 master plan. Go to the next slide, please. Once we heard about this idea, we did a site visit with a couple of our board members and some of our other team members. And, in addition to providing this opportunity for access, some of the things that we're always interested in are, reducing and avoiding impacts to natural and cultural resources. We're also interested in restoring, bootleg trails, social trails that people have created in the area that weren't necessarily designed to be sustainable. Providing it for a variety of visitors and different mountain bike skill levels in this case, and then looking at it as a way to alleviate some of the conflicts that we see on the trail. And we always want to try to make the design sustainable for our system to maintain and manage. Next slide, please. And here, I think I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he can talk more specifically about the project itself. And then Sean, I can jump back in at the end when we talk about sort of next steps. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Dugan. I'm the Trails Program Manager at the Park District. And this next slide is an overview of the park here. And it's kind of an example of how we will approach identifying a site for a trail. In this case, the biking community came with a proposal to have some kind of bike trail in this general area that you're looking at, along the Leonard's Trail. We looked all around. I directed my staff to look all around Wildcat and in Tilden for an opportunity for this. We used their proposal as a backdrop to that, but we did run this by internally our biologists and botanists, et cetera, our cultural services coordinator. And we determined that this spot along Leonard's was not a good spot because of the existence of a tar plant that is threatened and endangered and a special status species. So what we did was, next slide, please. We shifted it to the west to the Medsview Trail, just along that. And as you see the orange corridor there, that was our study area that we chose to look at, where we thought it was most feasible to construct a trail at a decent grade down the hillside here. We chose this spot because there's already two trails bifurcating the park here. All of these trails that you see are actually roads and allow bikes now. And so that's the study corridor that we proposed roughly 2 or 3 years ago to study. And next slide, please. And so we hired a firm named Nomad Ecology, and we had them run some preliminary studies, and we typically will do that for a trail project, just to determine, okay, is this a really good spot, or where are the fatal flaws? Like, are there endangered species? Are there plants that we can't avoid at all? Really trying to rule out any fatal flaws in the project that would prevent it from being something, unimpactful or less than significant impacts. The studies were completed early on. Like I said, we know of the tar plant. It's roughly, quarter mile away as the crow flies. So this spot did not find any no listed plant species in the corridor. Or natural sensitive communities are present there, but they can be avoided by realigning the alignment within the corridor to miss those species. And there's no impacts to listed amphibians and no jurisdictional wetlands in this area. Next slide, please. And so the community proposal came around 2020. Truth be told, this proposal has come to the Park District, and I've been at the Park District for 20 years. This proposal has been around for about that long time, about that amount of time. And the Park District's never in earnest studied whether it's feasible or not here. So this is really through our trail user working group and through our experience with really everything my department is trying to do at this point is curb illegal trail building in our parks. And one of the ways, as Max mentioned, that is addressed is by providing what it is that people are feeling the need to go build. That to me is an environmental emergency, and we're trying to address that by providing something that actually is sustainable and purpose-built and has been studied environmentally, not just built wherever, whenever, and by whomever. And so in 2021, we started coordinating, as I mentioned, looking for a location. We looked in Tilden, we looked north at near Alvarado, and did some initial cultural resources review of that and determined that there's a lot of cultural resources in that area, so we ruled that out. And then we needed to determine, a basic conceptual design. Could a trail be put in this corridor that avoids some of the species of native grasslands that are in the area, and how possible is it to fit it within here? So we hired Point Strategies in 2023 to prepare a conceptual design, and completed some additional studies in 2024. And then we also hired Ascent Environmental to begin drafting the project description and to complete the initial study to really dig in and catalog what we're finding out there. Next slide, please. So we had a public meeting. Well, so this was addressed at a trail study session. The budget adoption, our board approved $300,000 to study this trail alignment in the 2023 budget. And in April 25th of 2023, we held an online meeting that there was approximately 285 members of the public there. And we filled out a survey you can see down below. It's one of the questions that we had. And we opened up a comment survey and a comment area on our webpage. And I placed in the chat, if those of you that can see it, I'm happy to provide the link again. That is a link to our project webpage. And currently now we're at the phase where the board has approved the moving forward with an EIR on this. And we're going to begin that very soon release a notice of preparation for that, and that will announce and notice a public scoping meeting during that period, and I'll let Max get into the next steps. But I wanted to draw your attention to that web page. There is now a button there that you can click and enter your email and your name, and if you want your address, etc. And then that will put you on a list to continue to get updates and to continue to be noticed of public meetings. But we will be noticing this project at the project site. We will be noticing our partners, the Trail User Working Group members that are meant to represent the broader community, as they did during the Trail User Working Group. We will notify all them as we did of the public meeting in April of 2023. And it will be on our webpage, et cetera. We're going to do everything we can to notice this, to get as many comments and feedback as we can. I'm getting feedback every day on this. It's all being saved and considered. And so your voice does matter. And I want to emphasize that we are here to listen to your feedback. I'll let Max go into the details of what are the next steps. Next slide, please. But I will say that I'll give you just a couple of stats here. So it's about 1.44 miles of directional downhill trail that's being proposed. This would be bike only. And it's going to have sections that increasingly get more difficult, possibly. It's going to have rollers, bank turns, things that will attract bicyclists to come ride this and not go build trails that they're trying to make into that, or ride trails that it's somewhat inappropriate for them to use due to user conflicts, et cetera, or just poor design. Most of our trails in the Park District are roads, and they're just simply not suitable for certain activities. We're looking at about 36 inches wide, the trail. The elevation change is about 500 feet, and the average grade is about 5 to 7%. We haven't quite gotten into the cost proposal of this. We don't really know how much this would cost. It really depends on what comes out of this process and what type of trail, if approved, would be built here. We're guessing between 500 and 700,000, but we just don't know. We do have a pledge from the mountain biking community and the local high schools and things, and the league that they would help self-police, help us volunteer to maintain this, and of course it will be maintained by the Park District. That's next slide, please. Here's some conceptual images of some features that you might find on a trail such as this. There's sometimes what are called rock gardens, or areas where you have to kind of slow down and manipulate your way through to build skills in that area. Next slide, please. You can see here a similar real life example, rock garden or a rock roller. Next slide, please. This is a conceptual image that kind of shows the rollers and the bank turns through this area. This is just a graphic, but that's more or less kind of gives you an idea for like where it is. Next slide, please. Here's what's called a tabletop. You can see this in other areas where you can, if you're really good, you can go over it really fast. If you're not, you can kind of slow down and roll over it. They also make these in prefabricated features, such as on the right there. Next slide, please. Bank turns are usually a part of these types of trails. They not only do bank turns provide a smooth turning radius for a biker, but they also prevent a biker from really braking really hard before a turn, which causes brake bumps and causes damage and more erosion to the trail. So there's also a prefabricated type of that as well. Whether or not we put those in on this trail has not been decided yet, but these are typical options. Next slide, please. Here's what's called a roller, double roller, or triple roller. These are just kind of meant to keep your momentum without pedaling, but also improve your balance. Again, there's a prefabricated type on the bottom right there. Next slide, please. And so in this EIR, what we're proposing, there's a lot like I said, we did a lot of early studies, plant surveys, wetland delineations, et cetera. And we're not finding anything that cannot be less significant or mitigated for as an impact here. But we do want to look further into the following bullets on this slide as a part of that EIR. Plus, we would like to engage with the public in a more robust way. And robust is just a technical term, but really doing an EIR requires the Park District to do a little bit more engagement as far as scoping, and then a longer comment period, and then the Park District has to respond to those comments. So we feel like this is the best way to move forward in a transparent way, and a best way to move forward to develop a project that has the most minimal impact that it can. Next slide, please.
Sean, I can jump back in here.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, everyone.
Sean mentioned, thank you, Sean. We're planning to do an EIR again. Like you mentioned, this isn't something that we're planning to do that level of CEQA on because of the environmental impacts. It's because we know there's so much interest, and this will provide the greatest amount of transparency and the most opportunities for people to engage in it. I wanted to just address two real quick things that have come up for questions that have been asked several times. One's about a potential donation for the project. Probably some of you have heard there's a potential donation to support the project. We haven't yet received any donation, but it's actually very common for us to receive donations or grants to support the work that we do at the district. We're really lucky to have community members and foundations and other sponsors that want to help support work. It's also really typical that those offers of funding are contingent on projects happening, because they're restricted funds that would only be utilized for a project. We also are a professional staff that evaluate these projects based on their merits and bring them to our board through this kind of process for their decision on policy decisions, and with as many opportunities as possible for the public to comment. So just want to reiterate that receiving a donation or a grant for a project doesn't mean that we're going to move it forward just because of that person who's donating or the entity that's granting those funds. And there are cases where we've given money back because the board or our district decided that wasn't the way to move forward. The money for the planning and CEQA is coming from district funds, to be clear. And then lastly, some folks have asked about our land use plan and whether this is consistent with the 1985 land use plan for Wildcat Canyon. It's generally not very different than what's in the land use plan, but of course, that was a revision for the park initially. And as we complete projects here and across our system of 128,000 acres each year, a lot of those weren't specifically envisioned in those land use plans. And what that means is we just need to do the full sort of CEQA analysis for that project, independent of the plan itself. But it is consistent with our master plan, and again, with the intent of the land use plan. And just to point out, all the trails adjacent to this include the Mesu Trail right next to it, already allow bikes. So the use on this is very similar to the adjacent existing uses. And I think that's all I got, but happy to answer questions or just hear anything from you all. Thanks for letting us join you.
Okay, Max, I want to stop just for a second and let everybody know how this works, because it looks like we have a lot of people that are not from our two neighborhoods that are attending. So I live here too. I know, but there's a lot that on Zoom too. And I just want to explain the format here. First of all of our meetings are recorded, video and audio. So everything you see and hear will be recorded. It will be posted on Supervisor John Joya's YouTube channel, so you'll be able to go back and watch that. If you have a YouTube downloader, you'll be able to download it too. So that is available, just like all of our past meetings too. our format is that we are all appointed by Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors to this position. So first, I'll open it up and let them ask any questions or make any comments. At that point, we're going to ask the residents of unincorporated East Richmond Heights and Hassford Heights to either ask your questions, you can make a comment. I'm going to ask you to try to keep it down to just maybe a couple of minutes because we've got a lot of people, as you can see. And then following that, we'll open it up to anyone else that doesn't live here. We'll be happy to let you guys, make some comments too. So that's our format for working through this. So first, council members, questions, comments, Joanne?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm trying to understand where the EIR is. Has the initial study been done yet?
Yes, so I think, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've completed the initial study and that's posted on the project webpage. And then additionally, the project description, conceptual design are all there. Sean, does that sound right? You're muted.
Sorry, someone's going to talk while being muted tonight, and that's me. Yes, that's correct. It's on that. If you follow that link that is in the chat at the very top, the first, those of you that showed up late, I can paste it in there again. I'm going to do that right now. If you click on that, you can get to all of the material that's been developed thus far.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Barbara Sapir. Can you tell me if the 2013 master plan legally binds the park district to do what's in the business plan?
That's a great question. I don't think so, but I don't know off the top of my head. Happy to follow up with you individually about that.
So my understanding is that the 2013 master plan says that to add or change a trail, that you have to go through the land use plan amendment process. So I'm curious why you're not going through the land use process like you did with the Alvarado staging area.
So I don't know the exact wording off the top of my head of our business plan from the 2013 master plan, but I can tell you that, a whole staging area is different than a trail. And we have many trail projects, even this year, but every year that we complete without, redoing all of our land use plans. We manage 128,000 acres. I think we have, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, like over 1,000 miles of trails and fire roads. So we do, over a dozen projects every year. So it would be if we had to revisit our master plan or our land use plan every single time we did a project, that would probably not be feasible.
There's only 12, that's not so many, right? I mean, we're talking about a multi-million, an almost $1 million project here. So is the land use edict being considered at all with this?
The process that we have for this project is, going through the EIR process. It's it includes like all of the sort of questions I think that you would want to answer about a project. I'm not sure what else we would get from an additional process.
But isn't land use just like the laws of how to use the land? Is that
No. So the land use plan is really a again, sort of like a vision for the park when it's first created. But it's not like it's not like a zoning plan that's in a county's general plan. It's different.
But there's no laws for this land at all? There's no, I mean, is there any laws that govern what happens on this property?
Yes. So Ordinance 38 is our code that, has all of the laws that are regarding like how our parks, all the rules for our parks. And then additionally, you know, we have to follow all of the, you know, state and federal laws regarding, you know, land management. So our compliance with CEQA, which is what the EIR process is an example of that. You know, additionally, every time we're, you know, considering or working on a project, we go through permitting processes with state and federal regulators.
Thank you. Have you done a geotechnical study of where the trail will go in terms of the geotechnical issues concerning the Wildcat Canyon in this area?
We have
No,
not.
Sean can.
Yeah, we
go
haven't
ahead.
completed that yet. No.
Is that part of the EIR?
I'm sorry, what? Is it part of the EIR?
Is that going to be part of the EIR?
It could, I think right
yeah.
now that's the kind of input that we're looking for in this sort of scoping phase that's coming up is, you know, what issues folks want us to look into.
And just to reiterate, that is the purpose of the scoping period. And so that type of comment is like Max said, is a perfect comment to receive during that period, which will be noticed.
Thank you. And have you fully studied all the species that could be impacted by the flow trail?
You know, that's sort of part of where we started was with our, you know, biologists and natural resource professionals to look at the whole landscape in this area to try to find the best possible place from a natural resource standpoint for this type of facility. And that's what informed this. You know, I think that's something that we would continue to look at through this process. And again, we're continued to, you know, ask and listen if there's ideas that we haven't considered yet.
I totally appreciate that. I'm just also confused because you said that you started this in 2020 by request from the bicycle community, and it's 2025 midway through. And I'm curious how we've not heard about it, the people in this area haven't heard about it, and how was there a public meeting? What was the demographics of that public meeting? My understanding, it was mostly the cycle community, including a petition of 2,400 names. But I haven't heard of this until now. So I'm curious what your process was in reaching out to a more eclectic community input.
I think that, you know, Sean can correct me if I'm wrong. I think when we did that public meeting, we put noticing at the trailheads. Sean, what was the noticing for the public meeting?
Yeah, we notified many of our partners, as I mentioned before, Trail User Working Group members of the Sierra Club, Native Plant Society, of this, the local riding groups. We've also posted them at all the entrances to the park on our webpage. And, you know, that's very typical for our project noticing. And unfortunately, no matter how much noticing we do, there's always someone who says, I didn't hear about it, and you know, we didn't reach them. So we try to do our best. But that meeting was noticed. I will say that this isn't like a done deal, right? Like the project just now is really actually becoming real. We've been looking at it, trying to rule it out, trying to look at options, talking about it, putting money in, trying to determine if there are any fatal flaws, as I mentioned earlier. And so this is really the beginning, to be quite honest. So I just want to encourage you not to feel like this is so far ahead that you can't get involved. This is the time to do that.
I can confirm that I saw the signs on the trailheads 2 years ago. They were posted, and that was the first time I heard about it.
Did you contact the supervisors of the county?
Did we contact the supervisors at the county?
County, yeah.
I don't know. I started working here 9 months ago, so not myself.
No,
Sean, do you know if
we don't contact the supervisors of the county on every project we do, and all of our work. Like that's not a typical thing that we would do.
Okay. You talked about, sorry, I have a few more questions. You talked about bifurcation. And to me, that sounds like you're splitting two things in half. And by the illustrations that you showed, there is that, it just crosses right over Wildcat Canyon from east to west. How much of that is going to be fenced in?
Oh, how much of the trail? So One of the things that the aspects of the design is that there's sections where some of the features are that are fenced in, and then there's 200-foot gaps in between those fenced areas. So the idea is we want to make sure that we know that the cattle grazing there is actually really beneficial for our natural ecosystems. It's also beneficial for fuel reduction, other reasons. So we want to make sure that the cattle are able to move from one side of the trail to the other without damaging it. So we've fenced in those sections, but left, work closely with our grazing managers to leave big enough areas that the cattle can move in between, and also helps for wildlife and other benefits.
I just have a quick question. So you said a 5 to 7% slope. So is that, how fast are these bikes going? Like 11, 12 miles per hour or what?
Sean, do you know what the average speed of a bike on a flow trail? I feel like Suzanne sort of had a guess of how fast folks go. I mean, I think the good thing is a lot of those features actually slow bikes down. The current trail that's out there is like a super steep fire road. So it's likely that, visitors on this trail will be slower than the existing one.
And it's all fenced, so the animals can't get in there, right?
Well, especially like a large animal. I mean, it's like a cattle fence.
Okay, I'm concerned about the animals and the wildlife and the vegetation.
Right.
And my other question, so this is all public land, but this trail will be limited to bikes only. So no walkers, no strollers, no pets, no ADA. So a lot of people will be limited from using it, right?
Correct. I mean, I think part of what we know is in our existing trails, bikes use the same trails as hikers and equestrians and others. And so, one of the things that we know is if we can create sort of these separate facilities, then, ideally sort of improves it for everybody, because we have a, bike facility that folks can use that's sustainable. And if folks don't want to encounter a bike, they have places to go that have less bikes.
Thank you.
Do you have a clear schedule about this project? Like, maybe it's too early. Do you have a kind of a proposed construction date, and how long will the construction to be?
We don't have a construction date yet. I think one of the things that's really important is that CEQA is a decision-making process. So our board doesn't approve the project until we complete the CEQA work. So then, we'll have a 30-day comment period coming up pretty soon for the scoping. Then it'll take us a while to create the draft EIR, and then there'll be a 45-day comment period on the draft. We think, a lot of that process will take place through, end of 2025, a lot of 2026. The earliest we think we could, start construction would be 2027. But just to be clear, the project doesn't get approved until CEQA is completed.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one more question. Is there a budget, or will it be a part of your regular budget for maintenance of the trail?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I mentioned, we have over 1,000 miles of trail, and we're, fortunate to have a really amazing trail crew, and then additionally, really great team of rangers and others. We're hopeful to have strong volunteer support, but we're also planning to take care of this facility just like we do all the other ones. So, that is part of how we budget, is looking at new facilities across the district and making sure that we have the resources to take care of them.
That a lot?
No,
Because I have a few questions.
I think so.
No, you go first.
So the documentation shows that 2 people will donate the $1 million, but only on the condition that the park district approves of the flow trail and also certify the EIR. So if the EIR says there's significant environmental impact from the flow trail, is it your position or the position that the directors will vote to not go ahead with this and we'll lose the $1 million?
It's this process, we go into the CEQA process studying these things, we'll make a recommendation to the board of directors, and then they'll make a decision based on that recommendation and their own, their own feelings about it. So I think I would be hesitant to try to say what their decision will be or what our recommendation be. I think we want to make sure that's an open, thoughtful process. But 100%, our approach is, trying to move forward thoughtful, reasonable projects and evaluating and listening to folks. If the board decides not to move this forward or staff doesn't recommend it, then, we would not be seeking any funding for it.
I'm just curious, how far do the donors live from the trail?
I have no idea. And again, we don't have a donation.
What does that mean?
I'm just curious. I mean,
Give it up.
I'm curious.
We're in a time. Give it up. Come on.
I mean, I'm curious how far the donors live from.
He is here, so
Oh.
maybe we can let him discuss that, but not right now.
Okay,
But we need to.
okay.
Is that all? Okay, all right. I have 7 questions, but I'm going to do everyone a favor and not ask any of them. And Max, at the end, if they haven't been answered, then I'll ask you at that time. Okay?
Sounds great.
So I just want to say, thank you, and thank you all who are concerned about this. I grew up in Wildcat Canyon since I was 8 years old. That was 65 years ago. Okay, I'm a lucky kid who was able to go in the Belgium sanitarium with the YMCA camp. I got to see the Nike missile base while it was active, and then when I was of legal age, I went there with my buddies and we partied in those silos until the Alcatraz Indians took over the place. So I know this part, okay? And I'm looking forward to seeing, how this is all going to work out. So I will not ask my questions now. I'd like to start with the people who live in East Richmond Heights or Hassford Heights, which is the other side of Alvarado Park. If you'd like to make a comment or ask questions, now would be your opportunity. Please just raise your hand and we can go from there. And we will go to everyone else after that. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you putting this on the agenda and giving us an opportunity to speak. I lived adjacent to the Alvarado staging area for 25 years. And my concerns relate, there's obviously a lot of concern with the trail itself, but in addition to that, my concerns relate to the construction phase of the project, the staging of the construction equipment. Since we're adjacent to that staging area, I'm curious, will we get more information on the construction phase
Okay.
of this project?
Max, are you able to hear us okay? And Sean?
Yeah, actually, this
Yes.
sounds great.
It's
Totally.
good.
And I heard that. So more questions about the construction phase. And I think, that's a great question and a comment that we can bring in for that, scoping conversation to make sure that we're covering that in the CEQA document. And, I don't know that we know yet, like exactly what that looks like. We do similar, scale trail projects in many places, and I think it'd probably be similar to those projects. I don't know if they would come in from the bottom or the top. There's a lot of different places to access that location, and I don't think we know. Yeah.
Max, I interrupted her before she was finished, but
Oh, sorry.
we're here. Could you also please tell us your name, because the Zoom people, we've got names, but if you could just
Yeah,
mention.
sorry, Debbie Ingbeck.
Okay,
And
I'm just go right ahead.
I live on Park Avenue. So the reason for the concern about the construction phase is we live adjacent to that staging area, and at the very top where you did the extension of the parking lot would be like a perfect place, I guess, to be staging construction equipment, and since that's our backyard, the noise and the dust associated with that concerns me. The second piece of that, which kind of relates both to the flow trail as well as the construction phase, is, people have to get to that trail. People have to move the construction equipment to that trail in order to construct it. And so I imagine that's gonna be along the major artery, the fire road. And I'm wondering whether or not the EIR is gonna be looking at impacts associated with that artery, right? Not just the trail itself, but the indirect, if you will, impacts associated with the impact on hikers on the Friar Road, for example. So that was another piece. And then finally, I'm wondering if you're going to include some precautions, safeguards around fire. In particular, given all of the construction up there, and it's obviously in a high hazard fire zone. So that would be the final third piece, I guess, precautions around that.
Great questions. I think typically the, crews that work on, these kinds of trail projects have pretty modest amounts of equipment. It's usually like smaller pieces of equipment, a small excavator, mini, we have like a mini trail bulldozer that we use on a lot of our trail projects, and then a lot of hand tools. And then, but really great points and thanks for sharing that. And then I can't remember. There's so state construction staging. How would we get to the construction site? And and impacts from in the EIR impacts from construction. We certainly great points to bring up. I'm sure we would be addressing that in the EIR, but we'll add that to comments about the scope.
All right. Yes, Alan.
Hi, my name is Alan Krakauer, a resident of East Richmond Heights since about 2002. I also have a PhD in biology and have studied wildlife biology for 13 years, including noise impacts on wildlife, which I haven't seen mentioned in any of the EIR. I guess one of the comments I have is that the EIR you're mentioning seems to only focus on the footprint of the construction, and I'm really interested in estimates of how many people are going to be using this and how they're going to get from getting into the park, how EMS is going to be dealing with injuries on the trail and how they're going to get there. Kind of a corollary to that, if there's any, I haven't heard any mention of seasonal closures of the trail. So for one thing, there are newts that breed in Wildcat Creek, and potentially people accessing could be going through Tilden Nature Area where there's new ponds that have been constructed for new breeding. I know the Park District supports road closures at certain times of year, and wondering if the potentially hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of new daily users of this spot, we don't really know, would be something that the actual users, which should be included in the footprint when we're considering whether to support this or not. And I guess I'll try to keep it short, but I'd also be interested in kind of what the Park District's overall plans are for this type of project. I guess in short, let's say this is now this becomes the only flow trail, I guess, for 2 counties. It becomes very popular, and we heard in the previous public meetings how boring it is to ride on the same trail over and over again. So are people going to be wanting additional trails? And if so, would that happen in Wildcat Canyon? I'm concerned that Wildcat Canyon, by the fact that this one trail goes in, all of a sudden becomes the mountain biking park. And all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, we're looking at a larger number of trails that would really impact wildlife in a way that wasn't considered when we were thinking about this one trail. So I don't know what kind of assurances you can give about the future, but it would be nice to know what the next steps are should this trail go in. And that's it. Thank you.
Great questions. I think I'm hearing a question about are we going to study noise impacts? So thanks for sharing that. I heard another one about, are we going to have seasonal closures? That is something that we do on some trails. So definitely something to consider. Heard also, are there other mountain bike trails? Yes. Crockett Hill is another park where we have mountain bike trails not too far away. additionally in Briones. And I think, Pleasanton Ridge is another place that, we've looked at providing more trails for mountain biking. So I think we understand that there's a desire for this. Again, in our 2013 master plan, our board gave direction around providing more mountain bike trails throughout the district. And so, that's one of the things that we're trying to do. And we're also trying to do it in a way that's sort of as much as possible a win-win, where we're able to make our entire system more sustainable and reduce overall impacts.
Okay, I'm going to start at the front here. Bob, I saw your hand, and then we will get back to you, okay? Bob.
Name Bob Buchan. I grew up in the canyon, catching pollywogs and roller skating in the roller rink that used to be in there before it burned down. My backyard opens up into Wildcat Canyon. I mountain bike at least 3 days a week. Most of it is in East Bay Regional Parks. We have a lot of flow trails around here. It's not going to be the only flow trail. One of my concerns is most of the flow trails, or all the flow trails that I've ridden in East Bay Regional Park so far, have all been natural structures. They've just been built into the natural terrain. You're showing on these pictures you have of building jumps, building ramps, and those things, I don't know if you're going to put those in, but if you aren't, they're probably scaring a lot of the people that are looking at what you're trying to do there. I don't know if you're going to jump up your building to that stage, but if you're going to make these like the other flow trails that you have in your park already, which are great, then those are a little bit bigger and more extravagant than probably you're going to really put in.
Yeah,
And with the amount of people that are in at this meeting that are all here because of what you're doing, you would think somebody from the park would be here. Big disappointed. Everybody's complaining about not being informed, not getting information, and you're complaining about we're really sorry about it, and you're not even here.
Well, I apologize. I'm taking care of my son tonight because my wife also has work, but want to make sure I was here to be able to speak with you all. So next time I hope to be there in person.
It's way more important.
But I just say, in terms of the features, I think our ears are open, and, I think we're trying to, listen to different options. In some ways, some of those built features are easier to take care of than some of the dirt ones. And so that was one of the reasons we were interested in it. If it's something that,
Those features don't get wrong, but they look certainly unnatural to the people that are basically hiking around the park right now. And I don't know if that's how they're reacting to it or not. That's a little scarier to me, I would think, for them. But I mean, I don't know how many of them been to Crockett or Briones, but those are the trails I'm thinking about they're gonna build here. Those are the flow trails.
Yeah, I'll just say in response to you, thanks for your comment. In the EIR and when we're looking at the project, as Max said, there are options that were put in there, but we analyzed the most impactful project. We look at it as what would be the most impactful thing we would do here, and then we analyze it in order to develop mitigation that would mitigate, if needed, those impacts at the highest level possible, so that if we do less or if we make changes and we do less, we don't have to recirculate the EIR, right? But that doesn't mean that that's what's actually going to get built there. So yeah, I mean, you're right, it's a little misleading. One thing that I've learned is that everybody has a different opinion about what they want to ride or what's fast or what's dangerous or what they want. We hear it from the entire spectrum. But please keep in mind that, we're looking at what would be the most intense project here to analyze that, to make sure we capture if there are significant impacts.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, right behind Brian.
Should I list all five and like?
Oh, can we have a name first?
Oh, yeah, I just want to know, should I ask a question and let you respond, or ask all the questions and have you answer them all?
Go for all of them.
All right, so I'm Kevin O'Neill. I live here just off North Arlington. 50-some years old. My wife and I got married in Alvarado Park, started our family here. Our kids and I, it's our backyard, you know, we love it. But I've had some questions because I missed all the parks meetings. So just to you can clarify, it sounded to me like the proposal is Leonard Trail would have 0 bikes going forward as a compromise. So that would be exclusively horses and people. Then Mizzou would still be bikes, people, and horses, but there's a fence keeping people separate from the bikes. Okay. There's a bypass so to allow cows back and forth. And my questions are you going to be adding like water, drinking fountains, types of things? Will there be bathroom facilities out there by chance? Because to maintain a trail, it is handy to have water on a hose. Just putting it out there as an option to make people feel more comfortable about it. Another question is there an option to plant trees within the zone that will be safe from cows grazing it to kind of restore that area? Because honestly, I've ridden up Mizzou. It's incredibly hot and exposed and miserable. And I don't know anybody who want to hike it anyway. So, so adding some trees would be really great. And I think that pretty much covers my questions.
Great questions. Are there going to be bathrooms or drinking fountains? There's not planned to be any bathrooms or drinking fountains. We don't have domestic water that gets out that far. Will there, sometimes we do bring in water like on a water truck for maintenance for different trail projects. Are we going to plant trees? Great question. I don't know that we have a plan at this point, but something we can run by our stewardship folks and figure out whether there's, anything that would be beneficial for the environment in that location. But appreciate that idea and appreciate the comment that it's hot and exposed out there.
Okay, I'm going to continue, but I just want to say he asked 2 of my questions, so now but I would like to add that the single post fire hydrant that is down at the Mizzou Trail, it's been there forever. I don't know if it's got water in it, but if that's a source, that might be a place that they could tap into to have fresh water. I would imagine it's coming from the water tank that's up at the top of Rifle Range. I just mentioned that, so I'm down 2 questions. Okay, next, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kevin's wife. My name is Jen Kamermi. I've lived in the neighborhood 28 years. Didn't know this organization existed. So I just think it's a little ironic. I didn't know until tonight. I'm also an avid mountain biker. I've been mountain biking for ever. I grew up riding on dirt with my little banana seat bike. And I absolutely love coaching these kids. I kind of want to see raise of hands of all my mountain bike kids who lives in Richmond, East Richmond Heights. And I think that not much of us, there's more that weren't able to come, but we are neighbors too. As far as I wanted to answer some questions that they weren't able to answer. The average speed of a flow trail is 11.5 miles per hour. It's actually quite slow. Average on a fire road downhill is like 25. So it's a significant decrease in speed. It's more, flow trails are about developing skills. And we don't really have great trails in Tilden. There are, 300 kids a week that ride the trails twice a week. No offense to Tilden, but it's probably our least favorite place to ride. We travel on the weekends to go to other venues that suit our needs a little bit better, and that are a little bit more bike friendly. We are very committed to trail maintenance. For years, we volunteered at China Camp to maintain trails. And it wasn't until recently that Tilden started working with us so that we could help improve the trails. We worked on Curran, we worked on Havey. I don't know if there's any other trails. South Park, single track, South Park. And so to us, trail maintenance and being stewards of the environment that we live in and that we enjoy. It's really important to us. We're also neighbors. I would say 90% of the team, at least with Wildcat, because Wildcat is a composite team, so it's kids from Berkeley, Albany, and El Cerrito. I'd say 90% of the people ride to, or maybe 75, because they are middle schoolers, so sometimes they get driven because it's a steep hill to get up. But most of us ride into the park from the Grizzly Peak entrance where the reservoir is. And I personally, I live up in North Arlington, so I ride in. I tend to ride down Cape Anita, and then I go up the road to get up to Meadows, and then I go out on Nimitz, and then I come down Katy. That's how that's my favorite ride. That's what I would do on a weekday. But I can't think of anything else, but I want to thank you guys for hosting this forum and letting us come and speak, because a lot of us are neighbors, and we are also really committed to keep the neighborhood. As far as like it becoming the biggest new attraction, we kind of chuckled because we're just looking for something we're looking for something that's accessible for us, but also something that we can use during the week, so that the kids can develop their skills. I've traveled, we've been to dozens of places. My kids rode 150 times this year in Tilden Park, but we've been to flow trails and trail systems everywhere. And most other trail systems are far more developed and much more attractive to us. I don't think one trail is going to bring people in droves. It might open up opportunities for people that live in Richmond to discover a new sport, but I don't see it even being like Briones or Crockett.
Okay, thank you. I do see people. I do see people on Zoom with your hand up, and I will get to you. You know, I hope you are local residents, but let's continue here. Fran.
Hi, I'm Fran Capoletti. I live on Bernhard, so in the area. I come to a lot of these meetings, so it's good to see all the faces again. We've got some good attendance. I do want to make sure we welcome non-residents. I go to lots of meetings in El Cerrito, Berkeley, Marin, and Richmond, and I'm always welcome there. So I hope we show them the same respect, and yeah, we're no better or worse. I thought I kept up on the issues. It does seem like there's issues I would have heard of, and it hasn't come to my attention. I don't really go to the trails, maybe that's it, but it would be nice maybe to have the parks come to our meetings, the same way sheriff, police, and fire does. Just ways to keep us informed. But I was able to get a little better understanding from the maps, which does help. But for those of us who live here, we want to know, what am I going to see? What other questions that come to us, what would I hear? And if I did, would it be a problem? Those are things I don't need an answer to now, but I assume that would be studied. I too was wondering, is this the first of many trails or just one trail? I mean, maybe this is a big enough project of its own and enough. Is there a safety issue? I assume it's a good practice. While you can bike on your own, would be in groups. But would there also be organized competitions like Olympic style or ice bowl? I don't know. But that would just be something to consider, to understand. I do think limited development is something else to keep in mind and to value. Just having the space itself. But I was hoping to talk sometime about the history of the parks, but East Bay Parks does a good job on the website. I think consider how we got these parks in the first place. What were the motivations and what's happening? And just out of nostalgia, since my kids are grown up, I went by the little farm today, the carousel. Think of all the different things in the parks that may not be your interest, but of interest to particular groups. And hopefully that can be addressed, that everyone can find those accommodations. So that's my thoughts, but I'm glad we can at least have this meeting and hear from people tonight.
All right, Fran, thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Mike Poirier, 15 years, I live on Bernhard.
I did not come here for this, I came here for other stuff in the neighborhood. But what I will say, it sounds like a great idea. Giving respect to all of my neighbors' concerns, I would hope those get addressed in the scoping EIR process. So my only 2 cents to add is with west side access from rifle range or the parking lot, I would ask that they consider Aqua Vista be closed to bikes. Cause it wouldn't be built and I wouldn't want that trail to slide out because of overuse. But other than that, I think it's a great idea. Okay, thank you. Next in the room, and your residents here? Okay, go ahead.
I've been their son, I've been racing in Montana, Pennsylvania. I've ridden like ever. I work at a bike company. I pretty much like my entire life is bikes. And I pretty much travel anywhere like Rione's, Crockett, China Camp across to Marin, which I can't ride to anymore. And I have to go to those places, and I'm going to Santa Cruz for college because I will be able to ride bike-specific trails there. In my backyard, it would be really great when I come visit or with my kids and visit the grandparents. If we'll have a trail to go ride with my kids. You know, I've always been told that like this would take forever, like from some coaches that are just like, oh, it's not worth it, it's gonna take forever, and it has taken forever, but I really do hope that it does go through, so that I can come back and ride it. I won't be able to ride it as a high schooler, but yeah, that will be great. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is Martin. I live on Kensington, just a few blocks from here. We've been in the neighborhood since 2014. Come to school at Cal. I've been in the East Bay for the better part of 3 decades. My daughter Emmy races bikes, I would say, at a pretty elite level, even though she's only 9. We, like many people have said, we just kind of struggle to find places to ride nearby. We end up packing the whole family in the car every weekend, driving to the north of Marin, to Tahoe, to Santa Cruz, where they do have nice trails. It would be really nice to have something closer where we don't have to drive, and we can just get on our bikes and ride up the hill and practice. And I'll keep it short because I know there's a lot of people that want to speak, but I think Emmy wanted to say something briefly as well.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Emmy and I'm 9 years old. I really love mountain biking.
Emily, would you shout?
Speak it loud again.
Okay. Hi, my name is Emmy and I'm 9 years old. I really love mountain biking. It's one of my favorite things to do. Right now, my dad has to drive me really far just to ride on good trails, and it's hard when I have school and homework. If we had a trail closer to home, I could ride more often, especially after school. It would help me keep training, stay active, and have fun doing something I really care about. That's why I think building this trail is a great idea, not just for me, but for my friends, other kids, and families too. Thank you for listening.
You want to know you go in the back.
Want to ride this trail with a police presence, because we're living on Arlington Boulevard. Any given day, any given time, there's about 15 to 20 bikes going around every single day. Cars are almost running them over. Are we going to get an increased police presence with the sheriff department? Are we going to get a designated person to follow these folks down, or like how is that going to get impacted?
So I think your question would be for Max. You're speaking about, are you speaking about Arlington?
Correct, Arlington Boulevard, because the inspectors roll down all day, every day. They usually stop in front of my house for some reason. They feel safe enough, I think. So I just want to see the folks that are, what is the plan to protect them? Because I'm all for this product, hands down.
So Quinn, and I have seen some of your other reports on things going on. There's a lot down in your area, but I think he's only speaking about what's going to be put in Wildcat Canyon. I do agree with you. I see these guys flying down here and I don't know where they're coming from or where they're going. But that's an issue that I would suggest reporting it to the Highway Patrol. you can report it to the sheriff, but Highway Patrol does have jurisdiction on Arlington. And they're gonna be spending more time on Arlington, down from where you are up to actually Arlington and Olive, now that school is in session. And they are gonna be here, and they're going to be there with radar. They'll put the sign up. I've already heard about this. And they will give you a ticket, especially if you run through the light when it's red at Mira Vista School. So let's
Just to
keep,
keep these guys on bike safe.
yeah, but I think in regards to that, and I would recommend you go ahead and still report it to either CHP or county sheriff. Okay. Anyone else in here? Yes, young man.
Hi, my name is Noe. I'm 10 years old. I want to flow show because when I want me and my dad want to go biking, it's hard for us to find places that are simple, close, and fun. I also want this flow show because biking is a very important activity in my life. It helps me get exercise and keep it fun.
All right. Pat, I'd like to get our people on Zoom who have their hand up. Okay, hold on just a second. Are you a resident up here?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I've been on for years now, and I'm doing this opportunity, and I just think that it would be a really great opportunity to get this photo, because I've learned so many skills from biking. I've gone outside more, I've made new friends, and
yeah, I think it's a really important thing for the community, and like I've also grown up in this like biking community that is my 3rd year biking and my 8th year mountain biking in general. And I've always biked in Berlin as like part of something that I do with my family and friends. And I think it's really important to like continue this and like, I don't know, add on to it so that we also, both of us have been working on recruiting more girls to the sport. I think it's really important to have like an outlet to like, you know, have a safe place to do it where we're not, you know, in the way of hikers or like, you know, kind of, yeah.
And like, a lot of people have said that they don't want a bunch of bikers on the trail because they feel like the mountain bikers are sometimes disrespectful. But this like new generation of mountain bikers who are gonna be riding the trail and who are on all these things, in practice every day, they're learning how to be respectful. Their coaches are always telling them, slow down when you see hikers, stop when you see the horses. And these are the people who are gonna be really using the trail, and you can see that they're learning how to be respectful and be nice and to take care of it. And one of the things, a lot of people have talked about how the mountain bikers, they built illegal trails, but that just shows that they're dedicated to work on the trails. And if we have this trail where they've finally been allowed to do this, they're going to be motivated to want to help maintain it so that they can keep it and use it.
Okay, thank you. I can see, is it Adam Gordon's hand is up? Ronnie? Yes. Okay, Adam.
Hi there. Let me bring up my video. I'm working on a project. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. I live in the Hasford Heights neighborhood. I'm actually literally right in front of my home. There's the beautiful park we're talking about. I understand that when people aren't familiar with things seem alarming. Mountain biking is not something everyone does. It seems like adrenaline junkies going too fast or harassing people in the park. And I just, I think that's a lot of the subtext maybe going on here. And of course, I'm born and raised in the Bay Area, and I've lived within a block of the park for the last 10 years at this address, and then formerly around the corner from Alvarado Park. I've been a mountain biker most of my life, off and on. And what I will say, if you do some research, you do not see people in neighborhoods with mountain bike trails complaining about the actual impact. If you look around, you just don't see it. Mountain bikers turn out to be very good neighbors and very good custodians of the land because they love it and they want it to work out. And if you join or look at some of these groups like East Bay Regional Parks or East Bay Mountain Bike, I can't remember the name right now, but there are regular volunteer days to come out and put a lot of time and effort into these parks and love them up. And you're going to bring a lot of good good attention and good effort into the park. I also, just want to reiterate, I think that right now, if you go in the park, it is pretty dangerous to bike on the gravelly fire trails. It's actually more out of control. And in my experience, you're sharing it with people and it can be a little hair raising. I go in the park all the time. And what you have are kind of these unofficial cattle trails that people ride on, that I ride on, that are not really super safe for me and probably not safe if there's another person on it. I think that this plan all around is going to benefit everyone. And the other thing I would say is I've traveled to a lot of places that are considered world-class mountain bike destinations. While I really appreciate the effort and everything going into this trail, it's not going to compete with Moab or Santa Cruz or Tahoe, but it is going to be a great local resource. So thank you very much. And I'll look forward to staying in touch on the project.
All right, thank you, Ed. Ronnie, I can't remember right next to
Susan Worley.
Sorry,
Susan Worley.
Oh, Susan Worley.
Hi, this is Susan Worley. I live essentially in the same neighborhood. I'm about two minutes away off Solano. And I maybe have an unpopular opinion that I'd like to bring up today. A lot of my neighbors and I with whom I've spoken go to Wildcat for the peace and quiet, for our health. We go there daily to have a quiet place to walk. And what we are envisioning at this point is large crowds of people, nowhere to park or not enough places to park. If one goes on the weekend to Wildcat, sometimes there's nowhere to park. Which would mean parking in the neighborhoods outside people's homes, and even, unless there's some other kind of conveyance bringing people in, if there are, crowds of if there's some competitions or something going on, that would be a concern. I'm particularly concerned about the impact on grass-dwelling birds, which I heard about in a previous meeting, and reptiles. Reptiles do not need to be living by the creek. There was mention of amphibians not being impacted, but what about reptiles? They certainly live in hot climates. Lizards do. I am envisioning animals getting killed, losing their habitat. I'm particularly concerned, as I said, about crowds and parking. And then this $1 million price, I certainly heard that there'll be a donation, which makes things seem very popular because that wouldn't come out of our taxes. But in order to not only maintain the trail, but also to provide the sort of supervision that might be necessary. And I've been a teacher for 30 years of middle school kids and some high school. And I know that when these kids will come with their supervisors and they'll be fine. But what is going to be going on this trail when the supervision of the school groups is not present? We did hear in a previous meeting about people showing up at a bike trail, and I forgot where it was somewhere south of here, not too far away, who put up lights and did all kinds of bad behavior in the park. And what keeps our park safe? From behaviors that might be happening when the kids don't have their supervision. I'm assuming it would cost a lot more than $1 million if we have to figure in supervision and maintenance. And I think that the public needs to be asked ahead of time and needs to be told about this before a vote is taken, because it would be our tax money that would cover that. So my main concerns are, what is this really going to cost? Is it going to be safe and supervised? What about crowds of people? How about parking, and how would that impact the neighbors right around? But particularly, what does it do to natural habitat? Because this is my understanding is supposed to be seen as a nature area, and it's a place where we go for peace and quiet. And I think that we will lose that. Not all of us are 12 or 15 or 18 years old and taking part in these kinds of activities. I also have a bicycle. I don't ride I don't ride in this manner anymore, but I appreciate bike riding. And I think that we need to really think about whether this is a nature area that is going to be accessible to everyone, or if it's going to be, all of a sudden there are huge crowds of people and gee, we didn't know it was going to happen like this. in a previous meeting, I said something about, are we going to turn Wildcat into a Disneyland? And that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it is a concern of mine that we might lose our natural park. Okay, that's about it. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Okay, all right, thank you. Elizabeth, I see your hand up.
Thank you, John. I'm Elizabeth Sojourner. I live in East Richmond Heights. I've lived here for almost 60 years. You may find it hard to believe, but I've walked and or biked every one of these trails. My kids grew up in the canyon, so we're very familiar with the area. I want to echo what Susan was saying about our concern for interactions on the trail. The bicyclists have to get there somehow. And so there are about 2 miles of shared trail before you can get there, no matter where you come in, 2 to 2.5 miles. In recent years, I've developed a certain cynicism about the park's ability to manage shared use trails. So I'd really like to know how this is going to happen. It will come out of our taxes because it's long-term management. And I'd like to know how you intend to address the attractive nuisance aspect. My second point is that until tonight, I didn't even realize that the East Bay Parks had flow trails elsewhere. And I think it would be very, very useful if the park department showed up to our MAC meetings and talked to us about where those trails are, how they're managed, what your experience has been with them. And I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, Max or Sean, did you want to make a comment there?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it, and appreciate the comments about making sure that we're stewarding habitat and also looking at shared use trails nearby this. I think that's part of the goal for this is how can we provide this and also do it in a way that minimizes potential impacts to species and also hopefully reduces conflict in the park. And I don't know that there's any plans to have any kind of competitions or anything like that at this trail. I think at this point it's just for regular park use. And then let's see, what was the last question? Sorry, I'm forgetting.
Flow trails.
Oh, other flow trails. Yeah, I would be happy to join additional meetings. One of the things that's really cool about some of our other flow trails is the amount of volunteer effort to take care of them. It's been really neat to see how much the community's turned up to help take care of those trails and actually to do work, stewardship work even outside of the flow trails themselves, but helping to take care of the park. So they've been a really neat catalyst for communities investing in the parks and helping to take care of them overall.
All right, thank you. Nick Thompson, I see your hand up.
Hi, thanks. Yes, I'm Nick Thompson, resident of East Richmond Heights since 2019. Thanks everybody for presenting. I guess what I'm really disappointed by is that nobody's even willing to guess how many users we're talking about here. So either we're talking about spending $1 million on a handful of users, or you're talking about significantly increasing the number of mountain bikers in the park and associated trail use conflicts. So it'd be just nice to have an answer on this, right? You've already spent $80,000, I guess, on this project, and this seems like this would be the first question that I would ask. So if Max could speak to that, that would be great.
Yes.
Sure. How many visitors? I don't. It's again part of what we'd potentially look at in this part. I think in general, the planning for this wasn't about bringing more visitors to the park. I think what we heard is that there's existing middle school and high school mountain bike clubs that come out and practice in our parks already, and that it would be, sorry, somebody else speaking, that that it would be beneficial to have a, mountain bike facility for those existing visitors where they're not in conflict with others and where it's a facility that's sort of built for that purpose. And so, I think generally we're planning for existing park users. In terms of the cost, I don't know that we think it's going to cost $1 million. I think somewhere around $500,000 to $700,000 is sort of around what we're expecting. Park projects are expensive, and that cost is not far different than many of our other park facility projects that we have.
Okay, yes, sir.
Can I ask follow-up questions? All right. Question one, how many, like considering current usage in the last however many years that your colleague has been here, how many people have been pulled out with injuries from mountain bikes? Considering they have illegal trails and whatnot and what, just to give people a sense of how dangerous it really is to mountain bike. And two, can you tell us how many miles of non-bike trails there are, like trails in Tilden that bikes are not allowed in already? And how many are existing that I don't know, like the golf course where bikes can't go, or in any other places where people can't go? I mean, there's so much, like people are saying like it's gonna be all or nothing. It's so binary, it's so dumb. But could you just elaborate on like how it's just part of your job to say, this is for horses, this is for people, this is for bikes, this is for everybody? Can you just elaborate on that so people get a clue?
Sure, and Sean may have sort of details on the exact number of trails if he's still there. I'll just speak to sort of the injury piece of it. We have, I don't think it's a super high number, but we do occasionally have injuries related to bikes. They're typically solo, injuries where somebody hurts themselves, not necessarily hurts another person. And I'll tell you, before coming here, I was the parks director for the county of Marin for the last 8.5 years. And, we opened a mountain bike park there while I worked there about 8 years ago. And, initially there were some injuries at the park, and then, people, learned sort of more about it. It was mostly middle-aged men who ended up getting injured at first and then kind of found their limits, to be fair. But, the thing is, in parks, there, the state has created sort of immunity legally for trails and park features. You wouldn't have climbers climbing on El Capitan, or, people hang gliding off Mission Peak, or, surfing at beaches or skating at skate parks if parks weren't allowed to create places for people to take risks and do things that are challenging. So, certainly there are some risks inherent in that, but, that's part of sort of the expectation of those facilities. Sean, do you have numbers?
Yeah, so I'll start from the top really. So we have roughly around 1,330 miles of trails at the park district. So most of those are fire roads. So there's about 1,000, just over 1,000 miles are ranch roads and fire roads. 120 miles are paved. So those are the regional trails like the Bay Trail, and like the Ohlone Greenway Trail, etc., which we don't manage, but those are similar types of trails. And then the unpaved trails, there's about 200 miles of those. Of the 200 miles of unpaved trails or that aren't roads, roughly 50 miles allow bikes. So it's about 25% of the 200 miles of narrower trails. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Okay. All right. We do have a lot of guests, and I'd like to move on so that we can let them talk. And then we're going to go in the room here first because I can see the hands, and then we'll allow any of you on Zoom to speak. So, Michael.
Thank you for holding this. My name is Michael Mejia. I'm from East Richmond, and not like too long. been here for 35 years. My bike organizations have run Hell Street High. I founded that team. Albany High, I made that team healthy. I started the first mountain biking class in the nation at Albany YMCA. So I've done a lot of this. So you guys get it. I want this to happen. But most important is how we do this. And there's some things about how we're doing this that I don't like. And I'm just going to talk about one thing. Somebody mentioned that they were concerned that they were being left out of the loop and that they were surprised about all of this. The next thing it was suggested is that there's some skullduggery involved. That you were being kept out of this whole process because they didn't want you guys in it. We're going to make this thing go through without you. It's ridiculous, but it is being propagated. And I'm tired of it. I'm going to offer you a perspective here. In the last August 5 meeting, there were people that complained about EBRPD not outreaching and not including people. And I want to offer you this. Let's go to the MAC website. Now, you didn't reach out to me, Michael, come on to our meeting. I didn't suspect that you were trying to do something without me. That's ridiculous. But I went to Super Joya, talked to one of the guys about the issue. He said, oh, by the way, so here's this meeting. Now, the model for outreach is shown on your webpage, the MAC webpage. You go to the bottom and it says, I paraphrase, if you want information, just sign up and we'll send it to you. That's how it's done. That's how your organization does it. When you go to Super Joya's site, it's the same thing. You go to the bottom of the page. If you want information, you want to do something, you sign up. And you go to EBRPD, it's the same thing. You go to the bottom of the page, it says, you want information? You sign up. So, there's not so much outreach, it's you taking responsibility for reaching out to these organizations that are meaningful to you. Now, you guys live up on this hill, and you look in this direction, but your biggest neighbor has 3,000 acres back there, and you think that you're watching them? You're not doing your job. You should have been watching. You should have been on this. And if you want the information, it's up to you to go to that site and make it known that that information needs to come to you. There's nothing being kept from you. This is accessible to you. The fact that you don't have the information is not on EBRPD. It's at this august body. That's all I have to say.
I see a hand up there.
And I live in Richmond, just below Richmond Heights. And my daughter goes to Near Vista, so her school is in East Richmond Heights. And I take her mountain biking, and I would love to have a flow trail close by. I take her into Wildcat, and it feels a bit dangerous for a 7-year-old, so this flow trail would be a great way for her to learn the hills and have a safe trail. And I'm wondering how I can support this project. I can't support it financially very much, but I'm wondering what else I could do to support this project.
Okay, Max? Sean?
Well, I appreciate you joining this meeting, and I think, I would just encourage you to stay engaged with this process. And for anybody who's interested, whether they're supportive or not supportive, I just encourage folks to stay engaged and share their ideas and opinions, and we'll make that all a part of this process that then goes to our board. So for now, that's the best way. And then, of course, if this does end up getting implemented, then we would, of course, love your volunteer support.
Yeah. Now, earlier you had mentioned about as a place, where can people go? You said is it on the website? You can
Yes. So
Sean
put a link in the chat, and we can send it to Ronnie and Supervisor Joya as well to send out to folks. But also, if you just Google Wildcat Bike Trail, East Bay Regional Parks, it should get you to our project webpage. And then once you're there, there's a button you can click to sign up to be on our mailing list. And then we'll make sure that you are in the loop for any public meetings, comment periods, anything else. Yeah, Sean just put it in the chat again. So if hopefully we can just get everybody connected with that.
Okay, Joanna.
My name is Joanna Pace. I'm a member of this church. I live in El Cerrito. I've been coming to MAC meetings ever since it's existed here for the last 6 years. On that table is a newsletter called Neighborhood Updates. We've been publishing that letter on behalf of the neighborhood since the beginning of the pandemic. So please take it. And on the back at the bottom, there's a place where you can sign up. And also want people to distribute it to their neighbors, which is good exercise, really no blame.
Join me once a month when I do.
Yeah, Chris does it. So, thanks, and John does it. So.
Okay. And what we do is also posted at the Arlington Market.
Yes. So I live next to the Richmond Park. This is my closest green space. And I would just ask the residents, so living next to BART sucks. It's noisy, it's loud, I have tons of traffic. But it makes everything better for all of us, right? It's good for the community. So cool. I like it. I put up with that hassle. That goes around in a community. So when you worry about a little extra traffic or a few more people up here, think of those of us who live next to the BART and our house shakes every night because the trains go by. You know, but you have great public transit because of it. It's awesome and I love it. So come ride the BART, I'll come ride your trains.
My name is Greg Jerome, and I live with my wife Jennifer and my son Adrian on McBride. We a park from our house. So my wife and I were hikers, and my son is a mountain biker. We're definitely in support of the trail. We see it as an excellent opportunity for the youth of the community in all the ways that have been stated. One perspective I wanted to bring is, as a hiker, I understand the feeling of being vulnerable. You feel vulnerable when you're hiking when mountain bikers pass, especially if they don't pass you in a fully courteous way. So the two things I want to stress about that is, one, the group that's promoting this trail is absolutely changing that culture from the ground up. The kids are trained daily how to be good trail stewards and how to express good trail etiquette, and you can absolutely see it in them, and that definitely has an effect on the community, will have an effect on the community in the future. I absolutely think this project is a huge opportunity for the community, especially because it's being gone about in this way so transparently and so publicly, to change the culture between mountain bikers and hikers. And I've lived in other places where the culture is a very positive culture between mountain bikers and hikers, mutual respect, mutual use of the trails, and really courtesy almost 100% through and through, because there's not like a long antagonistic history of the hikers trying to basically sideline the mountain bikers, basically sue them out of existence, sue them off the trail. This is the history of the Bay Area that I've come to understand. Y'all may or may not be aware, but mountain biking was invented in Marin County in Fairfax. And yet, if you ask anybody worldwide where mountain biking was invented, they will not know that. Because the Bay Area seems to have been uniquely antagonistic to mountain biking versus most other places in the world at this point. And at this point, it's not going away. So I guess the one thing I wanted to just say to, if someone is a hiker and they just don't want the mountain bikers out there because they have that feeling of being vulnerable and it just feels like they just feel afraid about what it's going to be like if there's more mountain bikers, you actually want a project like this, because this is the type of project that will at a grassroots level change the culture and bring everybody together, and you will feel that on the trail. You will feel a different vibe with the mountain bikers. There will be more of a feeling of appreciation, gratitude, and consideration of your needs as a vulnerable trail user. So,
okay.
Hello, my name is Amelia, and I'm the daughter and sister of big family. I wanted to mention how somebody was talking about bikes being loud and like that's the mental how they impact people, right? I do want to say with East Trail, I know I plan my rides out. I'm gonna be planning it out so much more diversely, like I can go all the way up to the South Park single track and like the steam trains. I can go all the way down, I can cover so much more like land, and I won't be concentrated just doing laps. Like one time I did laps, 8 laps of Meadows and Curran, because it's the only trail that I really like. And I feel like it'll be a lot less loud, because they're just gonna pass you for maybe like 20 seconds if it's a big group, and then you probably see them again, you know, I say hi to my antagonist, I see, I ask them how they're doing. I know, I've commented on how adorable some people's dogs are, because oh my goodness. And I also want to talk about how, especially the high schoolers, we use the Parks District or the nature reserve, how everybody else uses it. Like, mental health is also important for us. I have maybe classes this year and it's already like kind of stressful. And we have college applications and all of this stuff. And I feel like we also need a place to go. So I really appreciate that you guys are doing this.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in here? Then we'll go to Zoom. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Pam.
Remind me where you kids are from? All you young bike riders?
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
We live in
I mean, the school, sorry.
We go to Elsie House.
Is there a club at the middle school level?
So the middle school is a composite team, so we have students from Berkeley, Albany, and El Cerrito, and Richmond, and Oakland. We have kids who come from all over to belong to our club. Although there is another middle school team in Oakland, but sometimes for some reason kids from Oakland come.
So Korematsu has a middle school?
So it's not an official team.
Oh.
We're a club that we pull students. Yes, my kids went to Korematsu. There's Korematsu kids.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, Jim, can you join that?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Jim Hanson.
Thanks. My name is Jim Hanson. I live here in Richmond, and I'm a cyclist and a plant nerd. And I have the hat, and I have the t-shirt. It's getting a little old. But I guess I want to just talk to you all, because a lot of us have been talking to your adults. We've never had a chance to talk to you. And just as passionately as you feel a need for a serpentine run, a lot of us, and you won't see a lot of them here, you see them out in the park all the time, are going there to be in the nature, that natural space, because that was actually what the Park District promised in their land use plan. They promised it in their land use plan and said this area will not be for intensive recreational use. And there's a reason. As we know, it's a special place. So I support a downhill run. But I have to tell you here, it's a win-lose. And a lot of us have been trying to work actually with members of the mountain bike community to find a win-win, and they're hard to get to. So I just want to tell you that it is true that most people never knew about this. And even when that meeting took place years ago and a lot of you came to it, there was like a little 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I think some mistakes were made in the public engagement. And it's part of, this word gets thrown about, and I'll finish up. It's part of a democratic society that we work in. And it didn't happen. And this is a bad place to be in. But I don't think this is the place. And I think we need to find one, and I wish we would have worked on that so much earlier. I'm serious. So anyway, I just want to thank you for being here. I get what you want to do. And this is a tough deal here. So thank you. And thank you for coming and speaking.
Court. Hi.
My name is Richmond. Middle school.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, I'm the head coach of the middle school team, Wildcat. We draw from all the local middle schools. At one point, we had 110 kids in the team. This year we have 85. And my very strong feeling about this is that I want to get the kids out off their screens and out in the country, in the wilderness, where they can appreciate it. There's some of these people who, like Jim, opposed this trail right from the beginning without knowing the deal.
In this place, the right where it's located.
And proposed it in other places, they know full well, we can pass in the middle, right off of Nimitz Way, which is heavily used in the middle of eucalyptus. That's one of the sites they proposed. Another site they proposed was in Alvarado Canyon. Can you imagine that? So they knew full well that those weren't legitimate sites. And anyway, I do hope you'll consider all this when you're thinking about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Flint, and I'm going to see if I can ask this question of Max. It's a compound question. In the presentation on August 5th, there was a slide that really showed from the bottom of the hill to the top, in this design, all the turns, and then you broke it down into 3 or 4 slides. So I counted those turns. There were 53 turns, and it looks like there's a constructed berm on every one. So let's say we're looking at a maximum project of 53 turns. One is, we keep comparing this flow trail, and I love the sound of a flow trail. And I am for having dedicated trails one way, bikes only, so that people can have that dedicated experience. But my question is, so we keep talking about trails in Crockett and Briones and comparing this with those. Are there any constructed berms, rollers, rock and rolls, 2-ton rocks being brought in? You know, the difference between this and those two that it's being compared to, are we talking about a similar project to Briones and Crockett, or are we talking about this highly constructed version?
Yeah, Sean might be able to answer it better than I do. I mean, I think those other spots also have some of those types of rollers and bank turns. I'm seeing him nod yes. I don't know like the numbers to numbers, you know, exactly, but I think similar, right, Sean?
Yeah, there's similar in nature. The thing with Crockett is that there's it's a different side slope. There's kind of a few different types of terrain there, but really, you know, these trails over time can change, right? So while there may be a turn here one day, like they can have their berms rebuilt or a roller put in or taken out through time as we adaptively manage if they don't work or whatnot, right? But in Briones, you know, the trails in Briones are actually quite advanced, and the features that were built there were, you know, started out as being built by the community, and so yeah, there's actually quite a bit of that there. Actually, I'll just say there's one more. I don't know how many of you get to Pleasanton Ridge, but there's a trail that was built there in the last 2 years that is similar in nature to this trail. It's called the Val Vista Trail. It's actually a multi-use trail. I've hiked it. It's comfortable to hike, but it also has berm turns on it as well. That trail is doing really well in Pleasanton. There's a lot of people really like that trail.
We do still have a lot to get through. Is there anybody else here in this room? Oh, Marilyn? Yes.
A couple of things. Number one, I went through the website and I looked for their project, and it was difficult to find. It may be there, but I think it should be like on the front. And even in the district changes, I couldn't find it. So maybe it's a website issue. And then the other thing is about walkers and bicyclists in the park. And I noticed that there is a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit in the park. And just being a walker with dogs in the park, a lot of times, if it's a downhill, this is not observed. And I'm not saying that this is about the youth, it's usually not about the youth. So, you know, if you add to that, because it looks to me like in order to get to this, there are actually like about 3 different mixed-use trails to get to this. And those will be more impacted. It doesn't mean that I'm against the bike trail as it is, but I don't think that the 15 miles an hour is actually enforced by anybody, you know, it's just sort of there. And so you'll be walking your dog and then so all of a sudden somebody will yell on the left, you know, and you have to get this dog, maybe 2 dogs out of the way. So one thing, and then there's, I have a friend who is deaf. And so since we have lots of bicyclists here, if adding a bell to your bicycle would make a big difference because he can't hear somebody yelling at the back. So, so adding a bell to bike would be really helpful. And then, the other thing is that we are experiencing in the middle of experiencing climate change. And Wildcat Canyon is in a slide area. You've noticed all those slides that go into Wildcat Creek Trail. And that's happened twice. Plus, in the winter, you can see the erosion that goes down those hills. So my question is about maintenance of the trails, and because these are highly constructed trails. And it just really wouldn't take much of a storm to change that trail because there's ground underneath it. And some thoughts to that, I think would be important. And who's going to be maintaining this? When you say volunteers will maintain this. And I can tell by the passion that they would help out for a while at least. And but I think you have to decide who's going to be accountable for them. And I think it's got to be the park system, not the volunteers. So if those trails get bent or something happens to them, you know, who's going to be actually maintaining them? So I guess that's it. Everyone else is pretty much.
Yeah, so Marilyn, I mean, Max, is it right that really the environmental impact report is where that, you know, most of this is going to be addressed?
Yeah, and I really, again, like really appreciate everybody. Happy that we can stay connected, sign up for that, getting alerts. And we can happy to stay connected with you all with the MAC too, to keep you all in the loop. And then, yeah, I think I just to the question about like sustainability, those actually the rollers and those features actually help a lot with erosion because in a typical like the existing trails out there, they're fall line trails and fire roads that go straight down the mountain, so that really collects runoff and causes more erosion. And this type of trail will have a lighter impact in terms of erosion.
Yeah, so everybody is clear, you know, the step that the board has taken is to do the environmental impact report. There will then be a public environmental review process where the public, all of you, will have the opportunity to weigh in and testify to the elected park board. But the board would need to approve the environmental review at the end before construction could even begin. So there's another opportunity coming up at the point that that's done.
Correct.
Yes.
Just a small question. I second
a lot of the concerns that people had, and I love hearing from the kids about their enthusiasm for being out and having a way to exercise and the mental health comment is excellent. I hike on the, a lot at the very near the park. I've been there for 34 years. I used to have a mountain. I walk on Wildcat Creek Trail mostly and continue past Mezuk Trail. And so that's 2 miles to Mezuk from Alvarado. And the EIR doesn't address issues about that trail either on the environmental side, the way it's constructed the EIR. And in any case, would not address the issues that have been raised about hikers and people with baby strollers and dogs and so on. For those 2 miles or on Rifle Range for the mile between it and other, you know, the trails above the Nimitz and so on. So I would really like to see the district address those issues and what changes if you decide to move forward with the Master Trail, what changes you would need to make along the access roads where all those people are going to be, and it isn't going to be the well-behaved kids alone, but a lot more of the adults who, believe me, call out maybe 40% of the time on Wildcat Creek Trail. So I would need to hear from the department what changes you will make in order to make those trails continue to be accessible by everyone else who's been using them.
Okay, you're getting close to one of my questions too, that hasn't been answered yet, so. Okay, Max, any comment or?
I just say that's a great comment, and like I heard you say, you know, that's not in the environmental document. We're about to start the scoping process where we're asking folks, what should we be considering in the environmental document? So great comment and question, and really appreciate it.
He's not even there.
Taking notes.
Okay.
Jesus.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. One more question.
Have to go.
Will all public meetings be posted on your website?
Alan is right.
All of our all the public meetings, like for the district at least, on this will be posted to that project webpage. And then we also are planning, anybody who signs up to be on the mailing list, to send out emails to let folks know about it.
Okay, Joanne.
I have a question just to clarify for everybody here. Will all the comments that were made tonight that are appropriate for the scoping session be included, or is it a good idea for people to put something in writing and submit it to you?
I would suggest put it in writing. I'm taking notes, but you're going to say it better in your words. So I would recommend submitting a comment if you have a scoping comment.
And this full meeting is recorded, so you'll always be able to see it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will also just say I'll add that you wanna make your comments after the notice of preparation comes out, because then they're part of the record. And so that makes them more official than this. But like Max said, we're hearing all this. Taking
Some
notes.
of these considerations may actually be in the report. So. Roy.
2 things, sorry, I'll keep it short. So the first one is I want to thank everyone for coming. I think it's great that we're all able to share our differences. So thanks for that. And then the second thing is for East Bay Regional Park. I really do want them to start coming, because I think we have other concerns relating to fire and other things that I guess it would be great to have you guys here so we can kind of work together through some of these issues that are facing the community. So yeah, so I don't know how we can move that forward, John, to kind of.
Well, we've asked, you know, our meeting is here the 3rd Wednesday of every month except for the month of December. And, you know, if we could let Supervisor Joya know, we'd love to have you here.
Just make a date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can be in touch with Supervisor Joya and Ronnie on staff, and if there's things, you know, I don't know that we can make every single one, but I think as topics come up, whether it's fuels reduction, trail projects, whatever the topic is, happy to attend and really appreciate the time that you all are taking to connect with us.
Okay, let me cover just a couple things here. One is, so last Thursday, I took my mountain bike out and rode out to Maizue and was thoroughly tired by the time I got there. It really is in the middle of nothing, but
Oh, you fucker.
you know, the questions that I still have got is really about the safety out there. And just by coincidence, I listen to Pulse Point very often, which is what's going on with our, Contra Costa County Fire in our area up here. And on the 14th, about 6:30, I happened to hear about an elderly person that was down on the trail, and they couldn't find who this person was. The Berkeley Fire Department was going. They sent engine 52 from our side. And I know we've got the fire department here because I see her in the back. But I listened for a long time, and it was almost 45 minutes later, they still hadn't been able to, I think, locate this person that was down. They were kept going. It's near Jewel Lake. But where this proposed bike trail is going to be is out there in the middle of nothing. And when I got done out there taking another look at it, I decided rather than ride all the way back, I would go up rifle range because then I could coast all the way downhill back to here. And so, and when I got up there at the top, I did take some pictures and I looked at, the landscape, and you can see areas of, those bare hills right there where the trail is, that we've had landslides out there. And I was thinking the same thought about it. We could have a heavy storm and a piece of that trail is going to be gone. Maybe not, but that was a consideration. And then I realized the rifle range road is gone. It fell in a long time ago. It hasn't been repaired. Now that happens to be the only road that is the closest to a fire station, to El Cerrito Station 2. And so they couldn't get down there to the bottom of rifle range if they needed to. It has got to come in from Alvarado Park side or come down from, Tilden Park side. So is that the safety perspective of this? Somebody getting injured out there badly, it's going to take a while for anybody to get out there and take care of them. Where does that fit into this, or does that come out of the environmental impact report too?
Thanks for that question. And, I think it's something that we balance at parks, is both trying to create facilities that are as safe as possible for the folks that utilize them, and at the same time knowing that parks are places where people engage in sometimes, challenging things that can have some risks associated with them. And, whether it's even hiking, running on a hot day, swimming in a lot of our lakes, there can be, people can, unfortunately, have accidents. And we work closely, both, we have, of course, a police department and a fire department, and then, of course, our local municipal and county partners are, really important for understanding how we can best respond to those things. And so I think one of our practices whenever we're going to build a potential facility also is getting to connect with those public safety folks and making sure that we're planning it together with them to respond as best we can. So, I think whether or not that's part of the EIR, which really looks at environmental impacts, I'm not sure, but I think it's an important comment and perspective, and something that we would also take into account.
And I would imagine it's the same answer for fire out there during the dry season.
Yeah, I mean, when we ask people around the park district, our communities that we serve, what's their top priority? Number one is, reducing the risk of wildfire. So that's top of mind for us. We're, investing a significant amount of our resources in fuels reduction work. and especially in the wildland urban interface. And we know that that's something of concern to our communities. And so anytime we're implementing a project, that's a thing that we're thinking about as well.
And then the other question, I haven't really heard an answer to this, but where are people gonna park? You know, it looks like it's going to be, you know, Alvarado Park at the Wildcat staging area, or coming down from Nimitz Way. Is that, you know?
It's a great question. I think one of the cool things about this is that it's actually accessed from many places, and that, you know, the cycling clubs that you know, initially had this idea are actually ride their bikes into the park. So so that's kind of one of the interesting and I think cool things about how those clubs access. You know, when we've sort of looked at circulation, we've noticed that people access this area from, like you said, Alvarado, from Nimitz Way, from I think somebody mentioned that they ride their bike up from Meadows. There's, you know, a number, and that's something that we'll be looking closely at.
Okay. I guess last, I noticed there were a lot of steel posts at the bottom of the Mazu Trail along the east side of Wildcat Canyon Trail. Is there something being planned to be built there already?
I'm not sure. It's
Not
a
aware.
good question.
I'm not aware either.
Yeah,
There may be some fencing changes, I think, that are planned, but our grazing team, and there's lots of different teams at the park district that are you know, improving infrastructure that we may not know about, but we could look into it.
There's no big project or anything. It could just be some kind of maintenance work.
Okay. All right. I do see a hand up on Zoom. I can't read the name, Ronnie. I'm sorry. Leslie Hunt. Leslie. Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I noticed that came up during the discussion is something that has concerned me, and that is that the flow trail is at base a special facility for mountain bikers who want to use it. The hikers are 80% of the public, as I understand it, and yet, you know, there have only been a couple of people who've talked about them, and it would be nice if we had places where we didn't have to worry about mountain bikers, where we could go and peacefully be with nature. And if you are going to provide special facilities for one group, maybe you should think about providing them for more groups, especially one as big as hikers are. I will mention also in connection, you ran a study at Briones last year, and that did not turn out too well from the hikers and equestrians point of view. They found that bikes came through their areas. There was never a bike-free day, as there was supposed to be for the hikers to use. So, you know, whatever is done about this issue, I think it's, you know, sitting there waiting to explode like this one, better addressed now than later. And it should really consider all the user groups you've got. Thank you.
Thank you. I really would like to.
Can you answer her question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Because she needs to hear.
Yeah, Max or Sean, you guys want to address her comments, please?
Let's see. The question was, there should be hiking trails, and I think that's one of the things that Sean mentioned. Their district has quite a few, you know, hiking only trails around the district, but I appreciate the perspective, and I think, you know, that's one of the things that we're always looking for is, you know, how can we provide facilities for all our different users, and we do try to provide some of those, single use only type of facilities where they're appropriate. So I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, and thanks, Max. I'll just add that, yeah, as Max said, hikers are allowed everywhere. But I just, the steps that we're taking, to address, frankly, the lack, the deficit of the bike trails that the biking community actually wants. As we address that desire, it actually makes it easier than to remove them from other trails and make hiker only trails. And we are looking at hiker only trails. In fact, I actually would like to see more horse related trails as well. But this change is going to take some time. But we really do need to address the need of mountain biking, because that seems to be the root issue of conflicts and illegal trail building and the demand that has risen in our parks. But thank you for your comments, Leslie. And there have been a lot of really positive things that came out of the Briones pilot project as well. But
I'd add too that this project would change the Leonard's Trail to be hiker and horse only.
Cordis, and then I'd really like to get moving on.
I do have a spreadsheet, I think it's in anyone, that basically there's about 15 miles of single track trail for hikers only in Kilby, only 1 mile for bikers. And there's about 30 miles of fly road in Kilby along that.
And you get that to Ronnie at Supervisor Joya's office, and he'll get that.
No, it'll refer to the map made. And then the other thing is Tilden Nature Area, of course, a pretty big chunk of territory, including Laurel Canyon. Bikes are not allowed in any of that. So hikers do have very, very large percentages of access.
Okay, Joanne and then Michelle.
One more important question. Do you know the exact date of when the 30-day scoping period begins, or has it begun, or?
It is not begun yet. Again, signing up, we'll get the word out. We don't know exactly when. We're working hard to get to that step. So as soon as we get there, we'll let folks know. And then again, we'll have future public meetings. We'll let folks know as well.
I just want to reiterate, please put your stuff in writing. I've worked on these, and it's so important to make that 30-day deadline and to get a written comment in. It just makes it more visible and answerable, and it's in black and white.
Okay, Michelle, and we will be coming back to Michelle on another item.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to address 2 issues that were brought up during the presentation and Q&A tonight. First is the addressing of fire trails. Due to our heavy equipment program, we have addressed and cleaned over 300 miles of fire trails within our jurisdiction and our county. Secondly is the rescue question. I'd like to just reinforce that Contra Costa County Fire Protection District is an all hazards fire department. So wherever the call comes from, we will be there to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Max and Sean, thank you very much. And we do invite you guys to come here in person. Appreciate it, and we'll continue on from here.
Thank
All
you.
right, to go into a couple things. First, I don't know if Lieutenant Fitzgerald is with us on Zoom. I don't see him there. So let's go to Contra Costa County Fire District. Michelle.
Come on. Oh my goodness, and people are still hanging out, that's great. That's perfect. So, as promised, I'm not sure if everyone here tonight was here last month. So I just want to do a really quick update, bring you up to speed as to what the project entails, and then give you a status of where we are right now. Next slide, please. Okay, so just reiterating really quickly, in 2023 and 2024, CAL FIRE announced their fire prevention grant.
we requested over $1 million to complete the East Richmond Heights Shaded Fuel Bank project. This was done under the CCI funds or California Climate Investment Funding. The project at the time was 73 acres. That increased funding amount allowed us to cover 73 acres in our proposal. We received letters of support from Richmond Fire, East Bay Regional Parks Districts, and the application was denied in 2024. So, my dad says that I'm like a puppy to a roof. I do not let things go. So, and neither does the fire department. So we went back at it. Next slide, please. So this was the original project map. These project maps were distributed at multiple events and by email and through our website. But this project map was the old project map. Next slide. So thank you to Chair Sargent for a recent visit to the GOTA Foundation and where I walked the path of enlightenment with the head monk at the Buddhist monastery. I did so not only to understand GOTA Foundation's concerns about the project, but also to gather information. And here on the screen, you will see a snapshot that I took of the thick understory and heavy ladder fuels present in just one area on that path of enlightenment. The dense poison oak of that area will require a different mechanism, right? If a person was to walk off into that photo right now, they'd be about here with poison oak. So obviously our hand crew, we're gonna have to deal with this a little bit different way. It very well be maybe herbicide treatment and then pile burning. That's the only way that we can take care of that and not have our crews covered in head to toe poison oak, right? We will take under advisement the recommendations by the Sequoia Consultant Group to help guide us. So we are not using herbicides where another mechanism can be used, right? Given the limited access, there may be other mechanisms that, and I'll get into that in a moment, but there may be mechanisms such as herbicidal treatment that may be used. And I want to be fully transparent with that process. We will only use that mechanism where it is absolutely necessary and the only recommendation we receive from Sequoia. We look to that consultant group for guidance, not only for the CEQA process, for monitoring and other things, but we do look to our consultants. Like when Chief Bachman was here, he talked about areas of clearing. Maybe a wildflower would be, fire, right, in my brain. Wildflower planting would be more appropriate for a restoration effort rather than leaving it bare, right? So looking at what we would do in replacement of this invasive kind of, head deep kind of noxious weed. Again, deaden down trees. So having those fuels on the ground, increasing that fuel load is significant. Frequently, we leave large biomass in place because number one, it's very costly to remove and it secures the ecosystem and habitat for all of the little critters, right? We don't want to disturb the habitat. We have a light touch approach to this. Our goal is not to come in and moonscape everything. As Chair Sargent and I walked that path of enlightenment that day, it was very restorative. As we walked that path, I explained to the head monk, we are not here to moonscape this whole valley. We're here to provide a shaded fuel break. That's the purpose of this project. Next slide, please. Okay, what is a shaded fuel break? It provides an area for our crews to slow the spread of fire, creating an anchor point, a place for them to put a line and say, that's it. We're not going any further than here, right? We don't want a heavy understory with heavy fuel loads, putting them in danger. We need to make sure that we are clearing that area and allowing the slowing of fire spread before it gets to the crews and carries into the urban environment. Creating that break between the wildland and the urban, increasing our interface. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, so when I talked about project mechanisms, notice that herbicides are at the bottom because that is our last resort, okay? We have prescribed burning, mechanical treatment, manual treatment, and prescribed use of animals, goats grazing, right? So we want to do this, again, in a light touch, encourage residents to engage with our contractors throughout the process. Go ahead, next slide. Our scope of work, again, decrease the amount of woody and vegetative material that is available for conversion to greenhouse gases by unplanned combustion process. What is the unplanned combustion process? Wildfire, right? Next is significant reduction of probability of uncontrolled wildfires from starting and entering the West Contra Costa WUI area. So we're going to significantly reduce the fuels, right? The significant amount of fuels from that photo's worth 1,000 words, creating an ember cast or a shower into the urban environment. That's the purpose of our shaded fuel break. Increase the effectiveness of your work on your properties in defensible space and home hardening. We then make your effort more robust by backing what you're doing. Next is provide a safer community with improved evacuation routes, access points for fire crews, and establish anchor points. And again, the purpose of that shaded fuel break is to provide that anchor point, thin out those fuels. Reduce the ground fuels, thin or removal. So removal, we're not going to cut down all the trees. We're not going to remove all the shade. We want to preserve the ecosystem and habitat. This process was carried out on a larger scale. We had $3 million for the Lafayette Walnut Creek Shaded Fuel Break. We only have $950,000 for this. But that process was in concert with the community, right? All engagement occurred throughout each phase of the project. We are not looking to just say, okay, we're going to do the work, and then you don't hear from us again. And you wonder, how did they spend that money? We don't see any difference. You will see a difference. Residents in Hunsrücker Canyon gave us tons of praise for our work there in reducing fuels, and they feel safer. Reduction of fuels, again, helps you, when your work, keep that spread of fire lower and slower. Litter and duff greater than 1 inch will be removed. When I was up there walking the path, the litter and duff, I could sink my arm into it in some areas. In other areas, and I think Chair Sargent would agree, in other areas, you're talking like 6 inches deep, right? But that 6-inch environment, that 6-inch depth becomes a receptive fuel bed for embers and fire. And the spread of that is fast. Light flashy fuels spread fire at the fastest rate. They burn very hot, very fast. Those larger, like large trees that are down, dead and dying, those burn at a very much slower rate. Think about how you build a fire, right? You put your large logs at the base, you put your litter on the top, and you start that fire and you put that wick in there. That litter and that duff is that wick. Allows that burn rate to be longer. Annual grasses and weeds will be thinned and grazed to less than that 6-inch. Cut trees will be removed or chipped on site, depending on the size, health of tree, and access. So again, we're not going to remove live trees, but where thinning is recommended from Sequoia, from our environmental specialists, we're going to make sure that we have proper thinning, again, to allow the fire to go by. How many people have seen the photo from Eaton and Palisades and Lahaina, those post photos? What's standing? Trees. What's gone? Structures. And unfortunately, people's lives were lost. I understand your concerns about the preservation of the environment. I too want the area preserved. You know what's not preserved when a wildfire happens? Anything. It mows through everything. It leaves total devastation and total moonscape, especially in the wildland area. And that's what we're trying to reduce the risk of that happening. We're really working towards the best interest of not only the environment, but for the people and residents down the hill. When we saw Palisades, how did that work? Started up in the wildland urban interface in the WUI, carried down the hill, went all the way to the water. What do we have here? We have the same topography and the same wind pattern on some days that can carry those embers down into the urban environment. So this, we feel, is our best chance in helping you do the work, doing the large work, the heavy lift, while you do the work on your properties to fortify or make our efforts more robust. And of course, compliance with practice, rules, and best management practices. We are not going rogue. This is very consistent with necessary CEQA monitoring on site, even consistent with the governor's executive order for CEQA fast track. So yes, we will be fast tracking this process, this project, but it's not putting CEQA aside. It is still compliant with all of the CEQA requirements, and we will have a CEQA monitor throughout the process. Next slide, please. Again, the project an example that you see here is the canopy in place. Thick vegetation below, no space between ladder fuels, can very quickly carry into a canopy fire, producing those large embers that carry down into the urban environment. Next slide. You'll see here an example of pile burning. So as you can see, we've reduced those light flashy fuels to a minimum height, and we've piled the larger material there, and it would be a pile burn. How are we going to communicate a pile burn to the community? Through our social media sites, through the Bay Area Quality Management, we'll notify our dispatch. So when people are calling in, I see smoke, I smell smoke. They're aware of what's going on in that area. And it will only be done under the right conditions. The right conditions will be not a day like today where we had high heat and low humidity, but a day where we have higher humidity and lower temperatures earlier in the day. Control and best practices will be in place. Next slide. Okay, so here you'll see the finished area. What can you see there? You can see through the base of the area, the ground level fuels have been cleared. But what do you see also? You still see shade. You can move in that area without being this deep in poison oak, right? So it's not only, I would say, not only visually pleasing, but it also allows that light flashy fuel or that fire to burn here and at a slower rate, right? And carry up this hill and allow it to be stopped. That's a fire we can fight. Vegetation to vegetation fires, we can fight those. Vegetation to structure fires, that becomes more challenging. Structure to structure fires, the most difficult. Those are the most scary calls, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so on to current 25-26 fire prevention grant. The grant amount is reduced from that over $1 million to $950,000. We submitted to the CAL FIRE Wildfire Prevention Grant utilizing Prop 4 funds rather than CCI funds. We met our grant application deadline. Letters of support were received from our agency partners. And 232 letters of commitment. And each and every one of your MAC board members, we were in constant contact. Thank you to Supervisor Joya's office, Ronnie specifically, keeping that communication line open and understanding what we were doing, you know, day by day. And then as we went out, you'll see there the photo from the East Richmond Heights Festival, we were able to nab one of our fire trucks for 45 minutes. So, okay, what does this mean? It means that our project area is reduced from 73 to 57 acres. I know. It's a bummer, but I have good news. Next slide. Again, future engagement, all updates will occur in concert with our public information officer through the math board and on our social media sites. And I think the very important takeaway here is Confire will expand community fuel mitigation efforts to other target areas, north and south of this project, east and west, with planned fuel breaks and further risk reduction in the district. Not only with HOAs, but Firewise communities and high-risk neighborhoods to ensure defensible space is maintained on the long term for maximum benefit. Next slide. All right. You will notice the difference between the 23-24 map and the 25-26 map is this main section, the middle of the 23-24 proposed project boundary is maintained. What's cut off? We cut off the head, cut off the tail. I know. I was upset too. Okay. We are already identifying grant funding to move immediately in phase 2 and phase 3. There, all of a sudden, we have all of this interest. Wait, you're doing this? Let's do this. Oh, wait, another jurisdiction. Oh, wait, we can do this. How can we expand this effort? This is actually a good thing. They're saying, oh man, sorry you missed out on that CAL FIRE grant. Let's work together and create a whole line, a linear shaded fuel break all along this ridge. Talking with our partners, talking with residents, helping them understand the importance of a shaded fuel break. Looking in phase 2 to move up into this McBride, Alvarado Park, and Hasbrook Heights. Looking to move south into El Cerrito and Kensington. Really paying attention to you, the residents, our constituents, and our partnered agencies of how we can build upon this initial step. So yes, it is disappointing given the $950,000 limit. This is where we have to start, but it is indeed a start. And I'm happy to report that I will be here to see this happen. And I will continue to be here as a resident of Contra Costa County with Measure X funds and additional grant funding to make sure that we deliver that linear shaded fuel break north and south. Somebody can stop. Next slide. Okay, so if you have questions, please, I want the list of questions, but when you have questions, please email them to info@cccfpd.org. That makes everyone in the Fire Prevention Bureau take notice. Hey, we have a problem. When you email me, because I just came from Lafayette tonight and I'm here now and I go I'm jumping all over the place. I want to make sure that you're getting a timely response and everybody knows what the concerns are. If you have the one-off or again about our Contra Costa Wildfire Mitigation Program or how I can help navigate the process for you in maybe a community tipping day or a Firewise strategic plan project, how I can help you, please feel free to reach out. I look forward to further engagement also with our community partners such as Supervisor Joya leading the East Bay Wildfire Coalition group, also with the Fire Safe Councils and Firewise groups in the area. This is not a stopping point. This is a starting point. And I don't want you to feel discouraged. 232 letters. Wow.
Confirmed letters.
Confirmed letters. Confirmed letters. 232. I didn't do that. You did it. That's a thank you from me to you. Getting the information out there and visiting a culturally sensitive site was the help of Sheriff Sargent. I had been reaching out to them for over a year. It wasn't until Chair Sargent and I went to the site that I was able to walk and understand and speak with them. You are community leaders. I depend on you to get the word out and be engaged here at these meetings. And I look forward to our work in the future. With that, I'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
After the fuel is removed,
Yes.
how long before you have to remove it again?
Okay, so I'll use the example of the North Orinda shaded fuel break. North Orinda shaded fuel break was completed a number of years ago. I think it was, don't quote me, because it was before my start. But now we have it in the regional priority plan for a maintenance project that's headed by a fire safe council, right? And that's not your tax dollars funding that, that's grant funds, right? Looking outside of our county and bringing funding in, similar to the CAL FIRE grant funding that for this project. We are not utilizing Measure X funds to complete this project. Measure X funds are being used, because I know that you had asked a question before, the Contra Costa Wildfire Mitigation Program, so community chipping days, fire strategic plan projects, evacuation route cleanups, and sometimes fire trail cleanups, those are utilizing Measure X funds. But we're really looking to pull grant funding in from outside of the county to support this.
So the maintenance requires the grant funding in the future.
Sure. When you're addressing, in this case, 57 acres with additional acreage north and south of the project boundaries, sure.
So they could say no.
Sure. And like they just did before, and we'll go back at it and we'll apply again.
Maintenance seems like it's more important.
Sure.
Than.
Right, so let's think about your front yard. I would ask you to put in your head your front yard for a moment. If your front yard was untouched for a decade, what would it look like?
Well, it would look really terrible. I have put that in the general fund.
Right.
It's not based upon my work.
Right.
I work now for extra things I do.
Sure.
But that is in my general fund.
Sure. So the area, the land stewardship, the maintenance of work where, let's say, private property owners are placed in that WUI area, relying on private property owners to maintain this large area and partner with East Bay Regional Parks and doing all of the things, it's a lot to ask.
I don't think it's a finance, something that the whole community should. I mean, it's something that I think.
I'm gonna recruit you. So I appreciate your perspective, and not everyone has that perspective. Many will say that it is the responsibility, and it is true, it is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain their own property. But there is that area that, the property stops, and what are we doing to stop the fire from coming in?
We have to pay taxes.
So, well,
for maintenance.
okay.
I think the maintenance on this trail is also something that concerns me on the trail that we're talking about. Not the building of it, the maintenance of it over 10 years. It's gonna cost them.
Sure.
And nobody is talking about that or thinking about it. The maintenance of the work that we're doing for fires. I mean, fire may not have it for 10 years, but when it happens, it's really bad. It's like I'm doing whatever I can to keep the house, safe.
Yes.
And defensive.
And we would just like to match your effort. And the way that we do this is through a shaded fuel break, one that would be utilized by our crews in that moment of wildfire disaster to hopefully save your home and others.
So when do you find out if you get
Okay, so I'm hearing before the end of the year, but that's rumors. Like when we know, right? And so our application was in on time and met all of the requirements. And as soon as I hear, I'll be back here in Macworth. I mean, I'll be back every month. I'm like an old penny. You can't get rid of me. Yes.
Hey, so I guess a few questions. So I know that 100 of the 232 letters that were signed came straight from Hassport Heights. And so I keep seeing a like trend here, and I think Ronnie has heard me mention this many times that I sound like a broken record. But Hassport Heights keeps getting skipped on just about everything. I mean, if you don't believe me, just drive up there. We don't have sidewalks, we don't have stop signs, we barely have road markings. Where like the slurry, I think, is getting maybe pushed out, it's confusing, I don't know if we're getting it, so we may or may not be part of the slurry party. And now it looks like, even though we put in a lot of effort into this, like more than 100 of the 232 letters came from specifically Hassport Heights, because me and Bara helped organize that with an exact spreadsheet with addresses.
Yep.
With, and then there's other folks on the call too that were very involved on Zoom that helped kind of organize this in like 1 to 2 week manner. So it is very disappointing to not see Hassport Heights included, because we're part of this hillside, we will also burn. And so I think, it would help to understand who determined the current maps. And the exact reasoning for why Hassport Heights was not included, even though, like, I understand that the temple was included here, but we have Parkview Terrace, which is a big, townhome community that was the HOA that maintains that large property that I think is larger than the Buddhist temple, had signed on board to say, we want this.
They did.
And so to me, it's just confusing as to like, with that overwhelming support, why we're getting skipped again.
You're not getting skipped.
And so, but it is a trend. I mean, we're not on the map, so we are skipped, right? So we kind of need answers on the Hassport Heights side.
I understand. And Ronnie, if we could possibly set up a call with the chiefs and help Royer understand and the MAC board if it's appropriate for follow-up. I don't want to violate any rules, but I think that the answers are needed there, at least with MAC board.
As long as it's not a quorum, I think that should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple questions. One is a little nervous about just the best practices that these groups might be using. I was wondering if there's any opportunity for at least notification or input on when things, especially the herbicides, but on the taking out of the poison by goats or whatever.
Sure.
That's there are a lot of local organizations that would be able to tell you when the breeding birds that are going to be using those poison oak bushes are going to be in there.
Sure.
Nervous about the herbicides like going down in the creeks where that's not in the rain.
Absolutely in consideration.
So I just wanted to know if there's more information on particularly the things that at certain times of year would be really bad for that to go happen. If there's any information on that, and I guess my second question is on the revegetation, sprinkle wildflower seeds is, it's not bad, but that seems like the minimum. And if there's any chance that either your web pages or other places could provide resources for native plant revegetation, native grasses, things that would be better fire-wise and also wildlife-wise, and this is a real opportunity to maybe even, if this money comes through, that could be a matching money for like, okay, we're clearing this out, and now we can make the homeowners or as a group, we could somehow get some kind of grant or something from somewhere else to do a real good job on revegetation.
Sure.
So question. Yeah.
Thank you. So both of those topics would be handling that future engagement plan, working with our PIO, coming here to the MAC board, giving updates about the use and the recommendations. Reminder, I know that everyone has concerns about various aspects to this, but we've just completed the application And we're waiting to hear back.
Do you know what the competition is in terms of volume of applications?
I understand that there were in the 15 to 16 range in our CAL FIRE unit that were received. The competition is the competition. There's competition for every grant. And we just, you know, we put our best foot forward on this, clearly with the support of the community.
So 15 total money out of total money, what? 15, and how many were they looking to accept, or is it based on size or
It's
what?
based on size and project. So as projects are proposed, awards are granted based on funding capacity and the, you know, and the best foot forward. So those two things that I mentioned. Yes, sir.
Can we look at the map again?
Sure.
I had a question about, so a lot of that looks like it's on areas where people's houses already are.
Sure.
And I don't know, streets with sidewalks, etc. But just recently became keenly aware of existing ordinances in various cities and the county prescribing vertical clearance of 14 feet.
13.6.
Something like that, yeah. And county public works is supposed to be responsible for clearing all of that stuff. And walkways need to have 7 feet clearance, and there can't be anything in like a sidewalk. And a lot of people's homes encroach on sidewalks with vegetation. People want to have a bush or whatnot. But couldn't you just use a cudgel and just start complaining your way through all of these streets to clear stuff?
So I want to address that. Okay, know that we do work with Richmond County Public Works as a department, as a partnered agency. And yes, we have identified certain roads that would be used in an evacuation situation for clearing and evacuation route cleanup. That's part of the partner project with Measure X dollars. The second, so working parcel by parcel. Yes, we do that through our weed abatement process. But this is more than, so.
Well, you could use groups like us and we'll just start calling public works.
Yeah, okay, so I don't want anybody, yeah, okay. I think a more collaborative effort is something we want to focus on and keep that moving forward, right? And look at partners and what capacities are and what staffing limits are, and really utilizing the best of both worlds. If we have a piece of equipment that makes the job easier for Public Works, then obviously we want to partner with Public Works in a way that works for both of us and benefits ultimately the community. Bringing kind of that kind of, I want to call it a bully mentality, but like you're gonna do this and then we're gonna move on to the next one. And it doesn't.
Like you just pick, like there's entire streets there, like.
Sure.
It's not just parcel.
Let's have a revolution.
Well, okay, so last time
I'm actually on one of those streets.
Right. So, right, okay, everybody to their separate corner.
But I, you know, my son is a wildland firefighter, so he's looked at our house and said, that's gotta go, that's gotta go. And people are very emotional about their plants.
Yes.
And what they've done to their front yards to make them, you know, cute and pretty.
Yes, okay, so what we're kind of dancing into right now is zone 0. And last Monday's meeting, Chief Bachman was in Sacramento, I was also in attendance. That was a spicy meeting. So as we're talking about the state ordinance or state regulation that's coming, there are work groups and commissions and committees that are making recommendations to the state fire marshal's office about that definition of zone 0. And yes, it's on everyone's mind. But please understand that it's based in fire science. It's based in an education process, right? that we're going to have time to implement the education before an enforcement period begins. So this is a slow process, right? The days are long and the years are short. We put our time and effort in to educate the community, to understand not only the science behind urban conflagration, but also how to stop it, how to slow it, how to save people's lives, how to save structures from burning to the ground. And how we do that is through education. And how we do that is through fuels reduction. So hopefully we're bringing those two worlds together in this project to bring an overall fire adaptability. We're not gonna say safe, because are we safe from wildfire? No, we're gonna live with wildfire. We're gonna bring hopefully a fire adaptability to the community. So the younger generation and people during an evacuation process have a little bit more time. I hope that answers your question. No?
I was just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but your job is to ask poignant questions, and my job is to give you an answer that is truthful, transparent, and sustaining. And if I can't do that here in this setting, my job is to connect you with the person who can. So please feel free to reach out to me or to info@ with your specific questions, and let's make sure that you get your answer. Yes.
Real quick, Michelle. Is this from Alvarado to roughly the Berkeley Country Club? Is that the area?
Okay, so I'm sorry, Ronnie, can we get that back one more time? Okay, so we're here. And the HOA, the golf course is here, and then the HOA is here. We're cutting off right before we hit El Cerrito.
So it's south from here.
Yeah, there's an HOA, there's homes up there on the canyon side.
Right.
That's the height that I think.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You guys said that you cut like logs sometimes and then leave wood chips, but the smaller stuff is more flammable, so I just wondered.
Sure, thank you. So chip and broadcast is used, there's sudden oak death area, and I'm sorry, Ronnie, one more time on that map. So just east of here, there's a sudden oak death area. Sudden oak death is specific for oak trees. Where we would use chip and broadcast is to limit the spread of any fungus or any sudden oak death. UC Berkeley actually does a count every year that's really exciting to take part of. And I think Professor Goldner has more information about that process. But chip and broadcast would be used where we don't want to take that material off site. And again, it would be our partners at Sequoia to help guide us where each mechanism is recommended, and we would follow their guidance.
And
Yes.
then also, you was talking about like planting wildflower.
Okay, the only one I can say.
And stuff, and in the mountain bike community, like we volunteer to work at these places, and I mean, it sounds like you'd be willing, and I mean, I feel like a lot of people would be willing to go volunteer to help plant wildflowers and stuff, and would there be an opportunity to like work with one of the organizations that you would work with that left?
Sure, so yeah, master gardeners, as far as volunteer for this grant project, probably not, it's part of the grant funding where we would be working on restoration. But wildflower planting, okay, I said it right. Wildflower planting, again, would be in a specific area. And it would be at the guidance of Sequoia. It's not we're just gonna plant a bunch of wildflowers because that may not, be beneficial to the ecosystem or the habitat. But absolutely, when you're thinking about where to do your volunteer hours, where to put your effort into the community, really engaging at a level of Firewise. Because habitat not only is in this WUI area, but habitat for all species is throughout that urban area. So as you develop your Firewise groups, your Firewise neighborhood, it just takes eight residents up to 2,500. You can absolutely talk about environment and restoration. So when we talk about removing that 0 to 5 foot combustible material from any structure, replanting that wildflower area in that zone 1 or that 5 to 30 feet is completely appropriate. And you could put that into a 3-year action plan and really make that happen local in your community where you can see it every day. Anything else?
I think that's it.
You're not.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ronnie, is Richmond Police on Zoom? I didn't see.
No, we don't have one.
Okay, Officer Zaid. CHP.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Hey, thank you for hanging in there. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure. All right, let me go ahead and kick this off. So I want to start off by saying that we do appreciate the concerns that have been brought up in these past meetings. As we mentioned at the last meeting, we had requested a radar trailer. So I mean, obviously, so that it can monitor speeds, and we discussed officers conducting periodic enforcement during school drop-off and pickup times to address those speeding concerns. Since then, we did receive the radar, and we did deploy it last week. I believe last Thursday it went out. We began. I mean, obviously, we cover all that unincorporated area, so it was deployed, I believe, near Terra Hills, and they began conducting enforcement there. So we do plan to continue this approach in other unincorporated areas, which includes Arlington, especially near Mira Vista. And with that said, I mean, the frequency of enforcement obviously will depend on staffing availability. And obviously, I do want to echo what my captain has said in the past meetings about our resources being pulled towards Oakland, with all that, us being deployed into Oakland to assist with OPD with what's going on. So that has been a struggle, especially because those resources are going there. But he does, he wanted me to let you know that obviously our goal is to maintain that visible presence out there and continue to address these the speeding concerns wherever we can.
Okay, yeah, this is the week that school is back in session. I've been watching it's 8, just a little before 8 in the morning, and there are a lot of kids getting on the bus going to El Cerrito High. Just about every stop coming up Arlington has got kids on it now. So we also did have one accident, which I think somebody just ran through a stop sign at Cypress and Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
You did have officers there.
I believe so, yeah, and that would be, if that falls under our jurisdiction, then we would be deployed to that if we were called out for a report.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have, right?
Yes. How many times have your officers been into Hasport Heights?
Say that.
How many times have your officers been into Hasport Heights by any chance?
I don't have the exact number. My captain was actually supposed to make it to this meeting, but it was a last minute thing. So I can find out exactly how many times they've been deployed out there, and I'll be able to pass that along to you guys next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I think my concern is that, like, we're getting attention in East Richmond Heights proper, but again, Hasport Heights keeps getting left out. We also want to be part of this party. It wouldn't hurt to have an officer occasionally patrol our busy street on North Arlington Alpine as well. I don't think we need like radar or anything, but occasionally driving through and seeing if you see anything, I think would be great. So.
Sounds
good. Mention something there. Yeah, because the thing that happens in our neighborhood the most is our internet gets knocked out because people are stealing copper. And response time, it happens in the middle of the night. There's no sheriff's deputy wandering through there at that hour, but if you guys could when you're on the freeway, take a break and wander through there, it might just be something that saves the neighborhood again, because it's like a dozen times.
Is there a specific location that you guys are noticing that's happening, or?
It's on Alpine mainly, just Alpine, you could just go up and down Alpine periodically.
So up by the top of North Arlington and on the Alpine
Okay.
side.
Yeah, I'm taking notes of all of this as we're speaking.
So while you're taking notes, my landline is out right now. Because of proper theft, it's the third time in less than a year. I'm above the Arlington between Bernhard and Solano.
Okay.
And they seem to be attacking different places, but that's 3 times in less than a year. It takes weeks for AT&T to schedule these repairs.
Oh, and I've randomly found where they've been taking a lot of that stuff, because
Okay.
a fire started in a culvert that runs underneath Amador, right next to, where the creek is, right next to Riverside Elementary School. It's vegetated and there's some fencing that got broken, and so my son and I stopped and looked down there because that bunch of smoke coming out of the culvert. But that's where we saw a bunch of the casings that came off of all the power lines.
That's Riverside Avenue.
Yeah, Riverside Elementary School, the opposite side, like Riverside Street.
Behind it.
No, just go, stay on Amador to the other side of the school where there's a creek and the water flows underneath.
On the south side of the school.
And there's a bunch of trees, it's highly vegetated. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stopped, seeing smoke come out, I thought it was gonna be fire, but. Yeah,
Well, I just gotta tell you, my truck has been ripped off 5 times. And just last night, the window in my van got broken because they wanted something inside. But there are people wandering our neighborhoods in the middle of the night all the time. They're just wandering the streets looking for opportunities. And I don't know what to do about it because I'm not gonna stay up all night, but we need to be really aware there are people wandering our streets every night. No, I'm on Kensington Avenue.
Monterey got hit night before last, 5 cars got smashed.
Yeah.
Anything else for Highway Patrol? Okay, officers, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's go to Suzanne. Thank you for hanging in there with the Red Cross Disaster Co-Chair. Go ahead.
All right, thank you for having me. I will try to keep this short and sweet. Ronnie, if you want to put up the slides. So I'll go ahead and begin. I am a volunteer for the American Red Cross. As I said, I am the disaster co-chair for Contra Costa County. And I'll explain what that means in the context of the rest of what the Red Cross does. Are you going to show the slides?
Just give me one moment. Let me,
Okay. So I'll go ahead and continue. So the mission of the Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by trying to mobilize the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. And so in doing that, we have 5 lines of service. Disaster cycle services, which I'm going to go to more in detail because that's what I'm in charge of for this county. We have biomedical services, international services, service to the armed forces, and training. So if you would advance to slide 4. Keep going. There. So disaster cycle services means we try to prepare the community before a disaster happens. We respond if a disaster does happen and help people recover from that. So the wildfires that were talked about earlier would be one example of something that we would respond to. Other things like earthquakes, home fires, multifamily fires, apartment fires, and and storms would also be included in that. Next slide, please. Our biomed services are huge. We are the single largest source in the United States for blood for our hospitals and other needs. We have a lot of blood drives, some of them right there in Richmond and the West County area. And we distribute the blood product to various hospitals and also not just blood transfusions, but also for sickle cell treatments. Go ahead, please. Our international services is a network partnership with the other international Red Crosses and Red Crescent societies across the world. It totals an amazing over 15 million volunteers worldwide. And that is spread over 192 countries. And we have a large number of different things that the other societies do depending on the need of the country. For example, the Palestine Red Crescent Society and the Mexican Red Cross operate their hospitals and ambulances. So Red Cross or Red Crescent can mean different things in different areas. Next slide, please. Service to the armed forces, we have a very special relationship with our military. We have caregiver network in place. We do casework. We actually have an office inside, I'm blanking, in Vacaville, and many military hospitals around the country. We support overseas members. We support the families that remain at home. And one of the examples is we distribute baby care items to expectant military families. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also do training. I'm sure you're familiar with CPR, first aid, lifeguarding, water safety, swim lessons, babysitting, and advanced life support. So we have a lot of information on those things on our website, redcross.org. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? Well, I already mentioned that we have a lot of volunteers. So 90 is our number. 90 cents of every dollar goes directly to the care of our clients. And we are 90% volunteer run. So we are able to, that's one of the reasons why we are able to spend that money wisely. Our disaster action team program, those are the ones that respond to home fires, multifamily fires and such. They give out approximately $1 million every week to those who experience disaster in the US. So we have a lot of fundraising to do, and we are a not-for-profit agency. We are not government sponsored. So we thank all of our donors for contributing those funds that we can then pass on to our clients. Next slide. Here are some statistics. I'm not going to take the time to read them tonight, but I think it is pretty amazing that we impact over 21,000 people on an average day. Today, we just in Contra Costa, I personally went out to a fire victim in Oakley and assisted her. And I'll show you some things about what we provide to them. Next slide. So first, preparedness. We offer community preparedness classes. We come to different locations and teach Be Red Cross Ready and hands-only CPR training. So this could be a public event, a table at a fair, that sort of thing. We have youth presentations. We come to schools, and Pedro the Penguin is a cute little story that we present mainly to first grade classes about how to make a plan and be prepared for home fires. And then on the other side of home fires, we install free smoke alarms by request, and we also conduct events. And these smoke alarms are 10-year smoke alarms, so we provide them and install them for free. We also are partnering with the Richmond Fire Department and providing smoke alarms and have them help us with the installations in your area. Next. There are some apps for emergencies, first aid app, and also for pet first aid. So again, you can find those through our redcross.org website. Next, please. We respond to disasters with 2 levels. Mass care, when it's something large, we open emergency sheltering and we manage those shelters. We sometimes assist in shelters that have been opened by other entities. We feed and distribute cleanup kits or resiliency kits. This just happened. We opened an emergency shelter after the large multifamily fire in El Cerrito just a few weeks ago. And that was opened up in Contra Costa College. Next slide. So when we shelter, we provide trained shelter workers to go and oversee and assist with client care and organization. So we have shelter trailers. We look at various facilities across the county, and we have agreements with a number of them so that we can be prepared in advance and know where a good shelter would be in case of an emergency. Next slide. I mentioned the disaster action team that go to mainly home fires, but other types of emergencies in homes. These are volunteers that respond 24/7. I see a typo. That should be 365 days a year. And then after they go and talk to the client and gather good situational awareness and set up a case, we have recovery workers that then take up the support for those clients and give them information about partner resources for food, clothing, furniture, or whatever the client may need. I had prepared this last month, so these stats are a little bit old, but in the 1 year prior to this past July, we opened 190 cases in the county, gave out $142,000 in financial assistance through our DAT team, and we helped 569 Contra Costa residents who were displaced, as I said, mainly due to home fires. Next slide. We also offer those clients disaster health services, mental health services, and spiritual care. Those are, of course, all optional, and all of this assistance to clients is free. There is no repayment, and we also have a special group that assists if there is a fatality. Our integrated care and condolence team meet with survivors of a deceased and really work with them a longer period of time, higher amount of financial assistance if they need it, and provide all of those same health, mental health, and spiritual care support. Next slide. So we're always looking for more volunteers. So if anyone is interested, these are some examples of volunteer opportunities that we have in Contra Costa and most anywhere. So if anyone is interested, next, you can ask questions or contact me. You see my email and my cell phone there on the slide. Any questions now?
Questions? Jinwei.
Hi, I don't have a question. You're talking about your training program with the schools. And do you start at the middle school, high school? I also know there's a certain certifications that can give to the kids after the training program. Do you guys do that or something and can kind of get the younger people starting to have these skills?
So for younger people, as I mentioned, we have the Pedro Preparedness Program where we go into, can go into first grade classrooms and teach them to be prepared at home and then also take information home to their families and hopefully share that information. As far as training for youth, we do have a program where it's mainly at the high school level where there can be a youth club that can be started at a high school. We also have some of our volunteer positions available for youth, say ages 15, 16, 17. Not everything is appropriate for under 18, but all of those positions, we have free training available.
Do you have an EMT training or only just the CPRs?
I'm sorry, did you say EMT?
Yes.
No, we don't do EMT training.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
It's a
for
good
your
refresher
volunteering.
for us to remind us that all that's available. That's wonderful.
Well, thanks for having me. And as I said, I feel free to reach out and ask any questions later. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. That's great. Bonnie, do we have environmental health on the presentation?
No, they have to jump off.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to Supervisor Joya's office. And I think it's important because we didn't get to it, but this is the map of the slurry seal up here in East Richmond Heights. And some of you may have noticed that they ground down the
Yes.
yellow stripe today on Arlington, all the way up to El Cerrito city limit. I have this map here, but it's also posted at the Arlington Market. These are the streets they're going to do. Don't know when. Ronnie, did you have you probably got the same update that we did, right? Just Public Works is gonna be doing it.
The most recent update I got from Fernando, who's right under Monish, is September, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're starting to prepare.
I think I saw equipment like
7 AM. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, that was it.
Marilyn, you had something for Supervisor Joya's office.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for staying.
Yeah, I just, I attended, both the Contra Costa, Truth Act Forum on July 22nd and the Sheriff Oversight meeting on August the 12th. And I was wondering, well, actually, you must not have gotten my email or something, but I was hoping that either you or, if John had been here, could summarize those two meetings and what happened in those two meetings. And at the end of the last meeting, John ran 2 proposals by the lawyer. And I was wondering if there was any progress on that. And basically what I want to do is see if we can't get an agenda item on immigrant rights for our group, because it's becoming increasingly important. You know, the kidnappings become increasingly lawless and violent and cruel. And I think that, you know, it becomes imperative for our local voices to be heard, standing up for immigrant communities. This is about our neighbors, people who are in our neighborhood. I mean, practically every other person on my block is an immigrant from somewhere. And, you know, if it's happening to them, then it could happen to us. It really is important. More than that, if it could happen to us, it's because it's already happening to them. In these 2 meetings, basically the immigrant community wants an ordinance to make clear and permanent the county resources cannot be used to cooperate with ICE in any matter related to immigration enforcement, including ICE requests for release notifications, access to jail facilities, or the sharing of personal information about people in custody. This is all going on. And, you know, when we talked to the sheriff before, he said, well, the sheriff doesn't, they don't interact with ICE. But in fact, the county is interacting with ICE. And you know, Sheriff Livingston is an elected official. And he is the one who feels strongly that this is somehow okay. And so, you don't remember what actually happened in those 2 meetings?
Are you asking if I remember, or are you asking if I was? I was a leading question.
Can you, yeah, no, it is.
So I was at the, myself and also the interns were at the first meeting, July 22nd. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the second meeting. And so just wanted to kind of provide some context. I have been in communication with Supervisor Joy in regards to the 2 proposals at the second meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have any updates at this time. But whenever there will be any additional updates, we'll more than definitely provide those here to the MAC and also to the general public. I also know Contra Costa County Stand Together is an organization that our office is in constant communication with. And so I can reach out to them to see if they can come out to provide some additional information, resources, and context around immigrant rights. And so, yeah, we can definitely put that.
Yeah, if we could put it on the agenda, because it always gets stuck at the end of the meeting when everybody's all tired out, so.
What do you mean?
So if we could put immigrant rights on.
Oh, yeah,
The agenda.
Yeah, I can reach out,
and get some
sure.
responses, yeah. Because it would be nice to know what is actually going on at that level.
So you want that on this agenda?
I can't promise that, I can't guarantee that, but I can definitely.
No, I'm asking, is that, yeah, so it'd be somebody from the county to give that update?
It'll be from Contra Costa County Stand Together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Royer?
Yeah, I guess I also want to echo that. So it's kind of holding back and not trying to bring stuff from the national scene locally. But now that we saw that that happened at the county level with all the supervisors that were there, I think it is important for us to get regular updates. Passport Heights in particular, part of it is in San Pablo. San Pablo is predominantly an immigrant community made up of Hispanic or Latin American background, so this does impact East Richmond Heights. It may not impact East Richmond Heights proper, but it does impact Passport Heights, and so I kind of want to echo Marilyn there, and I also want to thank her for kind of leading the charge in that, because I think it is important, so.
Okay, Joanna?
John, and I just want to say that Open Door United Methodist Church has worked with Contra Costa County Standing Together. It's essentially a sort of an interfaith group, and so if the supervisor officer, you need help sort of getting them to come, you know, you can invoke, you know, that we meet at Open Door, and Open Door can step up and try to convince them to come also. So.
Yeah, our chief of staff is she meets with them, if not weekly, on every other week basis, and so yeah, we can let them know that.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, our next item is the subcommittee reports. Jinwei and Joanne.
We did not have any web use meeting for the different philosophy meetings, but we will have one meeting next Tuesday, I think the 26th. And it will be on the next month's agenda update.
Okay. All right. We don't have a historical presentation today. Anything that anyone else would like to see as far as an agenda item or speakers?
Oh no, so we're working over this.
Is there like an action item for East Richmond, or sorry, East Bay Regional Park to get them to come here? Besides just the verbal commitment? Cause I think.
Can't guarantee that, but I can definitely, I'll call
Okay.
them, Matt.
You have to reach out. I think he saw he needed to be here.
Yeah.
In person. Yeah, okay.
Was there still public comment?
Fran, I was going to that next.
Okay.
Public comment for any item not on the agenda.
I would have loved to talk history, but I think it was pretty packed tonight. Just a few things, I know it's been a long night. Back to some of the comments made, I think I saw Bara made a comment that she hadn't heard of the trail, I hadn't heard of it, but I found you in the newspaper, you've been to some of it.
Yep.
So I wanna be clear, it's hard to keep up with everything, but I think it was a big benefit to have a discussion. Continue to keep going.
I never heard anything about it until this, I think we started hearing something at the festival, so.
I think back to when there was gonna be an encampment at the church that was right on the Richmond City County line a few years back, and there was a McBride bike lane that we just kind of didn't know, but I just want to point out.
Okay.
It might help to let the police, fire, and sheriff go, even, especially if we have these long items tonight. I guess there was a push to get that done for the crowd, but I hate they keep them waiting so long.
I actually wanted to do that, but Supervisor Joy wanted us to.
All right, well, I strongly disagree.
There were so many people.
I disagree with the supervisor, so I also want to thank him. I appreciated, feel like he does a lot to find compromise and get solutions.
Yeah.
And that's been.
I think he was attending several other meetings at the same time tonight too, so.
And I don't want to forget, no one brought this up. Thanks for everyone who did the festival. I enjoyed that. Yeah. And I just felt like that was really good things. And thinking as you were talking, Royer, I learned so much about your neighborhood from being at these meetings. And I just want to make sure you don't feel completely ignored. I know. Some of these outcomes.
Several of us have learned a lot.
I know all about the boat trailer and the response. And that, so we can keep fighting for that to certainly keep that work. Make it, the fact that we've got this separation and people, we should continue to work.
You had your hand up way in the back?
Yes. Hello, my name is Angela Andrews, and I am the Director of Infrastructure and Planning at West County Wastewater as my director. Okay. I just wanted to introduce myself. My predecessor
I was promoted to deputy general manager and I've been promoted to director of infrastructure and planning. So you might see my team from the collection systems, from capital projects, planning and support services, to do presentations moving forward. But I just wanted to say hello, and Mr. Ramos has my contact information, so feel free to connect with him if you want to connect with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me go.
I just wanted to thank you and Barrett in particular for all the work that you did tonight. And I don't know what others may have also done, but you know, Barrett clearly was into the Wildcat issue and had read up on things, and I know because we were both in the public meeting that the East Bay Mud did, East Bay Parks did. And John, you're bicycling up there and then doing.
I did.
Doing the whole tour with Michelle.
And it was tiring.
Doing a tour with Michelle, for fire, I mean, that's above and beyond, John.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Joanna.
Oh,
And then,
so I also want to thank everyone who made the festival once again such a success. Bravo to all of you. It was really a great volunteer effort. I'm always proud to invite people to it. Speaking of inviting, I'd like to invite anybody who wants to come do some art. We're going to do leaf prints on Sunday at 11:30. There's also a great free jazz concert with Dan Damon. He's a kind of famous and
He's from the Point.
And yeah, he's from the Point. He plays at Laura's Fine Foods every week.
Yeah.
And then I want to say that I want to recognize the longtime service of Chris Peoples. He was our Ward 1 AC Transit Director for 27 years. He was at-large director for some time, but then he moved to Richmond so he could be our Ward 1 director. He died 2 weeks ago, and the district has 90 days to replace him and put someone on the seat, and I am gonna throw my hat in the ring. So I will probably come to you and ask for a letter of recommendation or whatever, attesting to my community spirit and my willingness to ride the bus. The last bus up the hill that leaves about 20 minutes, so we gotta ride it back.
all right, yes.
My name is Harry Wiener, and I am your director on the West County Wastewater Board of Directors. And usually our meetings are scheduled and at the same time as this meeting, but we're on hiatus, so I came by to put a face to West County Wastewater District. We were gonna double team you, but it's good, it's good. So I have my card and I'd like to give it to the board, so if you have issues.
Ronnie will get that, okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, anybody else?
I just also wanna say yay on the festival, it was great.
Well, you guys get.
Well attended, lots of fun and music and art and it's just all good.
Alan, who had to leave not very long ago, was major in making.
He pulled a lot of the
was.
weight. He pulled a lot of the weight.
And he was the year before, and I hope he'll do it next year too.
Well, not all that weight.
Okay, all right, if that's it, anybody on Zoom? Okay, well, good night, everybody, thank you all for.